All right. Holy shit. It's time, baby. The 3 hour pain in the ass special. So great. Just give me a second, guys. Okay. I believe we are almost ready. It's gotta. All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so after I released my 38-minute video, I was called a pedo and a homophobe. Yeah, that's a great fucking start into this video, isn't it?
God
Okay,
damn.
jokes aside, most big people ignored it, although usually calls are responded to and debunked or discredited. And since I made a video with the most views, yet got the least attention for whatever reason, I can only imagine that that specific reason is, well, that they didn't want any eyes on me. Which in turn makes me think that I may have hit a few too many home runs. When my video is linked or brought up, it's just thrown to the side and that's it. Like, it's just starting to look like I'm fucking feared by this community. However, I did get a few comments by bigger creators that I will just quickly talk about. One, there's Shut Up Jojo, who was actually very normal and nice and actually gave me some hope for this community. Seriously, at the end of my last video, I had completely given up hope on anyone being acceptable, yet this fella just casually flipped it all on its head. Then there's also Speeds, who actively did try to explain himself, but when I applied some scrutiny to his statement, he just completely dodged any and all points I made. Reminder, just really quick here, he and Saster caused a panic for no reason. So I do believe it's important to, still ask questions when something doesn't add up here. Then, the biggest one here is a response by Brodo. And of course you might ask, why even bother responding to her considering she was such a minor point of my last video? Well, you'll know why soon enough. But yeah, she responded, basically said that everything but her part was true, and still basically proved my point of the team trusting her and her being biased towards them. The only thing she really debunked was me accidentally calling them friends, when yeah, that may have been the wrong word, but it doesn't change the fact that there was a bias there. In
All
response, I give her
right.
3 different comments and never get a single reaction on any of them. This goes
Me
to
too,
show how
Cody.
vague and arrogant she can sometimes be, which will matter
Man,
way later in this
fucking
video.
right.
However, I will leave her out of the review situation as I
Throwing
did
random
promise in
shit
my
over
last response to her.
this. What the hell? Okay. Uh, all right. Just back a couple seconds. Just a couple minor things. Okay, kind of fucked up. I recorded a bit before I found out that Brodo went. Nominal? Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, so I apologize for being aggressive and comment her. Just please don't get the wrong idea about her. Alright, back to the video.
Now, just to clarify some shit from my last video. 1. That curse rant was just a side point. It was not meant to be an actual part of the callout. Hell, I'm pretty sure I even said that everything in that section was just my opinion, and not really a factual statement. Now, some of you might have seen that calm video that I uploaded shortly after my 38-minute one. I didn't make that one because my assumption was proven wrong, but because it was proven to be pretty fucking hasty. But I'll get to that later, it's a bit of a mess. When I spoke about the big four in my last video, that wasn't really meant to indicate how bad they were. I do not think that Mar really compares to fucking Jester Frog. I don't think that like any of them are actually worse than her, for example. It's just that they were the most powerful ones in this community. They were the mod's directors. They had a lot of influence here. Next, I would like to add a small apology to Krybin. Now, I didn't do shit to him, but people seriously harassed him over the Jester Frog Redemption arc comment, which was so unnecessary. Please do not harass anyone I mention in these videos. It's just a disgusting way to have internet discourse. You're definitely free to hate them, and I fully understand why you do. But please don't be dickheads about it, okay? Oh, and you might see this name GPT Anon in the responses to this one tweet that Krybit made. Keep that name in mind. It'll come back up again. Hey guys, I am back and not sick this time. That's right, I am no longer dying of COVID. Hell yeah, default dancing. However, despite my voice being back to normal, I will not be voicing the entirety of this video simply due to its length. I do not wish for my voice to get grating. So, I have asked your average Joe to voice some parts of this video, which he was nice enough to actually do. Thanks, dude. Now, you might have noticed that I'm in a more, jovial mood than I usually am in this kind of video. That is because this specific video will reach the deepest depths of moral depravity, so we do need some balance, you know? So, before we get started, when I discuss Right Burst, I will be 100% neutral. Kid's been through enough, please stop fucking harassing him. Now, I cannot make any promises on Joe's behalf to also be so neutral, but yeah, that's besides the point, I guess. I don't really care about petty shit like revenge or harassing someone, I only care for the truth. So please do not mistreat a fucking 16-year-old over internet drama. Please.
Yeah.
Something else that's probably worth mentioning is that certain people have changed their names, but I will always be sticking to the old ones as those are the more recognizable ones. So, whenever I say Jester Frog, I mean the person that's, as far as we know, currently called Bunny Tables. When I say Jackie, I mean Dusky Y. When I say Jasper, I mean the person with a billion fucking names. I'm not even gonna bother listing all of them. Here's just a couple. Brodowo, or Brodo, is Mamie Mayo. And Madman Halloween is Wicked Woman Halloween. I will still try to stick to she/her pronouns for her, but I'm not perfect. I'm just using the old name for the sake of recognizability. Okay, I think that covers everything I need to say very early on in the video, so...
Oh yeah, I learned a couple
time to
stuff,
get into
actually.
the content warning for the rest of this mess.
A little
So,
dumb
warning,
thing.
this video will talk about topics such as attempted suicide, suicide baiting, child abuse and pedophilia,
Oh,
child
shit.
exploitation, possibly, depends on your definition, verbal abuse, depression, manipulation, public slander, betrayal and abandonment, disrespect towards the dead, and people being general dickheads. Right now, on screen, you should be seeing a playlist with every relevant video to this whole situation. I recommend watching it first, before this video. You can skip the Toastify streams and the Bored Oranges video if you want, they're mostly just reiterating what we already know and getting more eyes on the subject. Now, most of this evidence was collected up until the 19th of November 2022, but I did still manage to squeeze some subjects from later on in. However, I cannot guarantee that everything that happened in between that date and the release of this video is in here. It's just too big a fucking conspiracy web. As I am recording this, it is the 10th of December 2022, meaning that anything that happens after this is like basically off the table of being mentioned unless it's a really big deal. So you're most likely gonna know anyway. So yeah. Still, right now, this video has over 1,000 screenshots worth of evidence. That is a lot, and I expect this video to be fucking ages long, so I hope you enjoy this ride, because I sure as hell did not. I made this video with the goal in mind to end the entirety of the exit drama, and while that is, realistically speaking, impossible, we can at least try to do that by starting where everything started.
I don't like that.
Revy.
Yep, I remember the beginning of Revy and all that stuff that went down.
Okay, let me just preface this chapter with saying that Rightburst admitted to me in a group chat that it was just slander. And this is not some fake Rightburst, just for some fake screenshot. No, this is the real one and I'm gonna prove it.
Oh,
now,
shit.
there are definitely people who have impersonated Rightburst. That is nothing new. But unlike that impersonator that Rightburst himself exposed, the one I talked to doesn't just have the same tag, but also doesn't use a capital I instead of a lowercase l, and has the same creation date as the one you'll find in all the different servers. And to further prove that this is not just two different screenshots of Rightbursts and this account is still separate, I have the fucker friended, and you see it on the screen with German text. And for those who don't know, yes, I am German. So yeah, I hope this just completely proves that this is in fact Rightburst saying it. And you'll know why he said it way later. We'll get back to that, don't worry. Next, I'd just really quickly like to talk about the mistreatment some of the Revy supporters have gotten, even though they really just try to follow the truth. We had people like Biddle3 just casually saying, hey, how about I kill you, how about that, to people just defending Revy. Or you have psychopaths like Juno saying that a Russia versus Ukraine mod, a war that is still going on right fucking now, would be better and more tasteful than a quote-unquote groomer's character. Christ! Then there's also just people saying that we don't even deserve truth and should just blindly follow their word. Or, way more interestingly, people being told to rot in hell and straight up being doxxed for the heinous crime of following evidence. But honestly, we never even needed all the new evidence in order to prove her innocent. Fuck, just 1 or 2 days after the initial threat by False Cow, there was this person, okay, Pondersprocket is their name, that immediately pointed out how shit the evidence presented is. And unlike False Cow, they actually allowed some fucking discourse. Hallelujah! Comments were not turned off, and that's surprisingly rare in this drama. Genuinely, thank you, Sprocket. Thank you for being actually sane, even back in January. Pondersprocket is seriously an unsung hero in this drama. It's insane. Now, something else that may have fallen under the wayside in all this mess is Revy's personal response dog. I'm not gonna go over it all again, simply because most of it has already been used repeatedly as evidence, because, she herself acknowledged every grooming-related accusation in it and debunked those, then also showed actual proof of her going to therapy, which people for some reason still claim at times that she just never did. And it was completely disregarded because it didn't fit to the narrative of her being a groomer, and admitting to it too. Okay, very quickly, for the sake of ending this discussion around her fully, allow me to give you a better explanation of the parallax situation than I had in my last video. Because there was even more to this that I had completely missed. Previously, I only discussed Rightburst dog. My main points were that it was spiteful to Avery, manipulated Revy's image, and called her a pedo. But there was a dog before this one, the one by Avery. So let's get right into it. Some minor things of note from this doc are that this whole situation apparently only started because Rightburst wanted to quote-unquote confront Revy over her 4chan Q&A. This is where the first lie comes in, that Revy did not take any accountability before, fucking hell. False Cow even mentioned it in the thread, what the fuck are you on about? And then basically shows the same convo that Rightburst also showed, that group chat between the three of them. Then it gets weirder because Avery just straight up goes on to slander Revy, okay? First of all, when giving a justification for contacting her, it's that they helped out a groomer before? I'm not surprised, but it's weird that you would just say it like that. And immediately, Avery just came in immensely hyper-aggressively, saying shit like, you are a liability to others around you, you're dense, the facet of you constantly stirring up shit whenever your presence is known, or your nature to be this blatantly ignorant. Those are all direct quotes. Just not me exaggerating, just direct quotes. Then Revy gives a justifiably angry response. She shows how the people continuously slandering her are the actually dense ones. She says that she's only stirring up shit because she's still alive, which, yeah, she herself is fucking tired of being a liability. She doesn't want this. And she also just wants people to actually talk to her in a civilized manner instead of always pulling shit over to Twitter where she doesn't even have a platform anymore. And she just can't do shit anymore without being seen as malicious or manipulative. And it turned out to be true because this fucking dog happened. She then goes on to further give some valid fucking criticism as to why the Excyclopedia, a Sonic.exe wiki run by Kenny of all people, singled her exe out to be removed because of drama.
Oh,
Avery
I
then
heard about
acts
Kenny.
like
I
she
don't know
tried
who
to be
the
quote
fuck they
unquote
are.
buddy-buddy with him, but after being understandably frustrated, that's just making sure that there's no bad blood between them. Rev kinda went apeshit on Avery, justifiably so I think being a bit kind afterwards is just, normal. Now, here's where something actually questionable on Revi's part comes in. Her asking Avery if they want to co-own Faker, which is suspicious, to say the least. So yeah, congrats Avery, you have a point.
Shit.
Then immediately there comes another good point by Revi, asking why Faker needs to be removed in general, because, separation of art and artist should always be a thing. Then Avery says that her talking about overdosing comes out of left field, which, not
overdose.
really, she was already depressed and suicidal due to all the slander and harassment you twats put her through. And also, she just fucking trusted you, Avery? Of fucking course she'd tell you about shit like that. This isn't out of left field, you caused this, and then also caused her to be willing to talk to you about it. By the way, when eventually a dog came out to expose the team, Avery essentially just blamed Revi, even though she did her best to help. Fantastic. Then there's also random ass DMs of Rev treating a broken down Avery with nothing but kindness. They discuss Chaotix's redesign. Rev makes it very clear that she doesn't want to harm Avery. Avery in turn is being an apathetic cunt when Revi asks for their thoughts on her. And she still admits to her faults, to which Avery just says, "You don't know when to let go, that's your main fucking issue." I don't think it's Revi who's struggling to let shit go, Avery. I really don't think so. Now after this active slander session, Avery speaks of giving Rev a chance, bitch where, saying that they were manipulated and gaslighted to a heavy degree. Yeah, right, definitely. You were the victim of gaslighting. And telling people to cut ties with Revi and that she's manipulative. Then they go on to apologize to fucking everyone but the actual fucking victim of the situation, Revi herself. I would say that I don't have any words for you, Avery, but here are some. Go fuck yourself. Okay, next up, let's talk about some of the victims, well, quote-unquote victims, of Revi's. First, there's Madzilla. He finally admitted it wasn't grooming, and this time even publicly. Oh wait, it's just in a comment section and not his Twitter? Fuck off, dude. This is too little too late. You always knew it wasn't grooming. You confirmed it in your DMs with Revi, why couldn't you confirm it on Twitter? Get fucked. Also, I would like to say a message from one of the victims that I got in contact with. Dreamy fucking carrots. Yes, the Ratnov one. I got in contact with them. They said that they and Revi ended up partying on good terms. No, they weren't still involved in a call out because they were manipulated or something. Don't make such claims. It's just complicated. I cannot show you
I like the way
proof,
this came out.
sadly, as
Now
that
it's
would leak
time
the new
to
name they're under. So I know this seems untrustworthy. You just gotta believe me on this one. Still, I would like to say that just like Madzilla, Dreamy should have at least made like an anonymous public statement on this. This is just a bit cowardly if you ask me, from both of them. The drama's basically over. Why hide shit anymore?
Oh yeah, that drama.
Oh yeah, when I say over, I mean over. Revi has already left ages ago. That kinda makes this whole drama irrelevant. The Revi haters won. She left the internet. I did manage to get a final convo with her, then she unfriended everyone. I announced that in like a semi-public server. It then got shared on Twitter and went fucking viral. So yeah, Revi's gone. I hope you cunts are fucking happy now. So yeah, if you still think that Revi's a pedo or a groomer, there's genuinely no hope for you anymore. Now, even though that, Lenny, me, and all the other Revi defenders basically got everything right, let's be real, there's one thing we all fucked up on. Now, I don't really blame anyone, as that's just information that was completely hidden from the public, but it's the following. Rightburst was not the main man behind slandering Revi. It was, in fact, Kubi and the next person we'll talk about.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I didn't expect this either, but apparently this is the truth, so let me share it with you. Now, what really brought me onto this trail is that group chat I had with Rightburst. I'll tell you what it's about later. This is just about False Cow right now. Basically, Rightburst told me that this whole Revi situation started in a group chat with False Cow, Jasper, Dreamy, and Kubi. I then asked Jasper, yes, I'm in contact with him, we'll get to that later too, and he told me about his own role in all this, mediating between Kubi and Revi. Revi did try to communicate with Kubi, but Kubi immediately left, which, truth be told, was to be expected. Jasper then also confirms to me that Kubi and Falsco were, in fact, the main people behind the Revi slander. So yeah, there you have it from the sources themselves.
Damn.
Now let's talk about other bullshit that Falscow has pulled off, because I'm fucking pissed at him. Now if you want to know why I am pissed at him, that is all because of a personal experience I've had. In case you don't remember, Lenny once made a normal CD voice reel. Then I decided to pull a prank and do the same with Sally Alt and Satanas to piss Falscow and Rightburst off. That was specifically because they were kinda the main targets of my two different drama videos. Therefore, I wanted them to actually acknowledge me, their critic, as, like I said before, I was completely ignored. Now, Falscow did acknowledge me by sending me a fucking copyright strike. Now, the email of YouTube notifying me about this is sadly in German, so you guys probably won't understand it, but there should be a translation of it on screen right now. This is immature, to say the least. He literally tried to give my channel a fucking strike over a joke. Now, this is nothing new, okay? Falscow is just like this. He tried to pull Sally.exe as a concept from the Nightmare series because he didn't like the way the games handled rape, which is a fair point. It didn't handle it well, but you don't own the concept of Sally.exe. Okay, this next one's just a small side point, but it's fun, so why not talk about it? You might recall me saying in my first drama video, the 11-minute this is thread, that I needed to use the Wayback Machine in order to access Falscow's tweets. That was because Falscow deactivated. But since then, he has returned to Twitter and showed disappointment because, I think because people defended Revy. He never really made the reason clear. But like, the assumption is reasonable considering he never really handled dissent well. However, that return allowed me to find a batshit insane rant. I even made a meme about that, egg uploaded. So I guess it's linked now. Yeah, no, I just made this tangent in order to, you know, lighten the mood a little, because we're about to go into two of the worst docs that I ever had to read.
Oh, damn.
Now, Falscow made two specific docs after a certain call-out we'll talk about in a second. The first one came out really shortly after, just a couple days, I think, and the second one, like, yet another month later in order to, like, have more prep time to explain away why he supported fucking Jester Frog. But like I said, more on that in a minute. Both docs are now unavailable for unknown reasons. But luckily I managed to copy the first one and download it, and the second one didn't even bother with. I just saved it on the Wayback Machine. Now I don't want to talk about the Jester Frog bits yet, so we'll skip over the first doc and the first half of the second one, just to talk about the Revy section of putting the Sonic.exe controversies to rest. Falscow's second and final doc on the situation. I'm gonna be going into detail, so get ready. This will take a bit. We start with him immediately victimizing himself and bringing up the sexual abuse he himself has suffered, even though it is basically irrelevant to what's happening right now. Just like in his original thread, I'm gonna have to say that your own experiences are irrelevant here unless the people themselves are involved. He then goes on to act like him explaining himself was ignored. Like, bitch, I gave everyone the offer and all you did was give me a fucking copyright strike. He asked the, quite frankly, insulting question of, what could I ever gain from framing someone? Simple. You satisfied your fucking hero complex with Kubi, you piece of shit. I'm almost 30, I'm too old for cloud seeking. Nobody said you are.
Motherfucker, almost 30?
Wake-up call for Revy. You ruined her life with lies. Revy was dangerous for those around her and I had to be the adult helping the scared kids. Bitch, Rightburst himself has over 20k followers. The fuck are you talking about? These people can speak for themselves. You did not need to get involved. Plus there's also just massive assumptions about intent for the Revy defenders. That the Revy defenders are in this for the sake of getting faker bag or just being entertained. Then we get into the hilarious Jester Frog bit. Put a pin in that, that'll be discussed in the next chapter. Right after, he immediately makes an actually good point that harassment and driving someone off a platform is not okay, as they'll just be able to come back and be even worse. He somehow uses that to connect the Jester Frog situation and the Revy situation, as though he himself is not guilty of that and the latter. Then comes a, quite frankly, ludicrous list of things that the Revy defenders have supposedly done to the victims. We'll be going over each of them one by one. First, sending them poorly summarized and monetized evidence, in quotes, videos about Revy's innocence, also in quotes. There's multiple issues with this. 1. 30 plus minutes is apparently poorly summarized now. 2. Only Lenny monetizes videos, and he only did that like 2 or 3 days before the stock, so what the fuck are you talking about? 3. The quotes on evidence is an empty way to fucking discredit us,
my God.
and the quotes on innocence are just fucking laughable. Next up, comparing these two disgusting but similar situations to try and state how one was less bad or more hypocritical than the other. Which, not really. We weren't trying to relativize shit. The point was to show you guys being hypocritical by supporting the person that saved actual fucking CP, while demonizing the person being slightly sexual with quote-unquote victims who said it was fine. Yeah, I can do the quote-unquote thing too, you piece of shit. Harassing and provoking those kids to the point of them lashing out. This one's too fucking vague. What the fuck are you even talking about? Creating memes and joke Friday Night Funkin' mods to laugh at the issue. First of all, fucking cope, there will always be memes to mock how disgusting you guys are. And second of all, which mods do you mean? It can't be retaliation that has jack shit to do with Revy. So, what fucking mods are you talking about? And don't say Forgotten Remnant. If you say that, I will laugh at you. Disrespecting the boundaries on purpose. Again, way too vague. What the fuck do you mean? If you mean asking for a statement on Revy, well, if you lie, we do want to know the truth, so maybe be honest next time around. Doxing and threatening. Okay, this one's a straight up lie. None of y'all were ever doxed over this, and threatening is once again too fucking vague. But Revy defenders, those were actually doxed. So fuck off with that.
God damn.
Creating fake accounts, pretending to be the abuser. The fake Revies were Revy haters trying to further ruin her image, and you know it. You're not that fucking stupid. Making the victims look bad for having an emotional reaction. Again, too vague. What the fuck do you mean? Criticizing you for lying doesn't count, by the way. Cyberstalking the victims to try and justify how in the wrong or at fault they were. Again, too vague. Screenshotting your tweets and the occasional DM ain't cyberstalking. Neither is publicly asking y'all to finally speak. He then has the fucking audacity to say, I can still go on and on. Please only do so if you actually have something worth saying, not vague shit and straight up lies. Then there's a random tangent with a bunch of screenshots about quote-unquote reactive abuse. If you don't know what that is, that's basically calling the victim the actual abuser for the sake of manipulation. And he tries to say that that's what's happening here. Fuck off, False Cow. The victim blaming part is ironic, by the way, but we'll get to that. He then says that he investigated the Revy situation quote-unquote neutrally. Which I'm rather sure that I know what exactly he's referring to, but we'll get to it later. Apparently he even had a fucking breakdown, puzzling everything together, like, dude, that happened to me too, you're not fucking special. And has the fucking audacity to say that Revy took everything out of context. Show some evidence or fuck off, false copyright. He then uses it as an excuse to not have checked if Jester Frog is a predator or not. Dude, you make your first response to the callout just hours later, your first dog just 2 more days later. When did you look into it then? Where did you suddenly get the fucking time from if you were so busy investigating this shit? Next he talks about his personal experiences in the field of children getting sexually assaulted, because he himself was fucking groomed. Which just makes me ask, why the fuck would you lie about someone being a pedo if it's so serious to you? He said he left the project of investigating Revy and gave it to a neutral party, which I think I know who it is, but we'll get to that later too. And that the info will come out when it's fully compiled, not before. AKA never. At this point, you guys already had way more than half a year to do this shit. And by now it's been almost a full fucking year. This is never coming out, and we all know it. Then he officially severs all his ties with the excellent FNF community, which, good fucking riddance, and then talks about some cycle of trauma, like, yeah, there is one, you piece of shit, and you're the fucking cyclist, but we'll get into that in chapter 5. Then False Cow finds yet another fucking way to pull the most audacious move he has pulled yet. How does he keep doing that, genuinely? He says that he owned up to all his faults without shame, which fuck no you didn't. You're still slandering Revy, and you're still doing the same bullshit. You're not walking away, you're running away, you piece of shit. And then, once again, most audacious move yet, the final lines of this godforsaken document. I've already won by staying true to myself and my values, despite it all. No you didn't. Can you look at yourself at the end of all this and say the same? Yes I can. Fuck you. As a small side note, False Cow, The cunt with the biggest fucking hero complex then complains about getting shit for lying, while also hiding behind right burst as a shield and doing jack shit while his mental health declines.
God damn.
You are such a fucking coward. Now, as I said before, the other doc was just about Jester Frog. So let's talk about what exactly happened to cause the creation of those docs.
I did something
This
wrong.
fucking Christ, this is a mess. Before we get to the elephant in the room, I need to address some evidence first. Turns out Jester Frog is the new name Bunny Tables, along with a Steam account that includes Silas, Avery, and Anime Hummus as friends, as well as a Roblox account that includes Jasper in the friends list. For those who don't remember, Jester Frog also made the character Normal CD, whose V8 clearly supports her with a heart. What?
I remember
Even
that.
after
Then people
Jester
were making
Frog's
this
cancellation, Normal
CD
CD still lived on,
fuck.
with Avery and Jasper owning him. Hell, the VA had a whole Twitter account for it. She was also in the Cult of X Discord server, whose owner is currently unknown. According to Jasper and Infinite Jr., some other big names were included, notably False Cow, his fiancée Noise, Kenny, his fiancée Tia.png,
Who the
Jasper,
fuck is
Avery, Astronomicon, KG Peppis, and EXE Burner. Shut Up Jojo was also in there at one point, but left early and openly does not support Jester Frog in any way.
Well, that's good.
So, if it wasn't obvious by now, someone got 200% mad and made a burner account. Adam McCumbus also made his own creepypasta, not an EXE, a full-on creepypasta, with Jasper, Jester Frog, Silas, Avery, and Hop, which is probably short for Hopscotch, who's the VA of Normal CD. Jester Frog vented about being called a pedo, with False Cow and Avery openly supporting her, making them look suspicious in the process. You could even say that there is a groomer among us. While I do have to admit a child-obsessed freak that can't stay soft at the thought of a child is a good insult for pedos, it's still horrendous what Jester Frog did, pedophile or not. She also claimed to be better than Revy, yet she knowingly had CP. The constant comparison when she's objectively worse yet gets supported because she has bigger names for friends speaks volumes about her and just shows her hypocrisy. After EXE Burner's thread came out, Jester Frog ran away immediately. Go figure.
Not surprised.
False Cow said it was bullshit and claimed there was missed context. Regardless of context, you still supported someone who saved CP and refused to get rid of it. Saying that you get why it's disgusting does not negate it. If anything, that wording makes you look worse, plus you talked about his saving grace. He also spoke about a solution, which is just a doc. By the way, don't think we forgot about those. We'll get to those later. Dummy and JoJo were based enough to actually retweet it. Thanks for being one of the few sane people in this godforsaken community. As for the live right burst reaction, he just pulled shit out of his ass about how he felt betrayed by Avery. Also, for some reason, he also focused on getting the name My Horizon back. Multiple mods can share a name with no problems. Hell, a mod I'm working on has his named Proxy, yet that name's already taken anyway. Con Gaming was just vague as shit about it, not much more to say there. Krabit said he wanted to be left alone about it, which is fair since he was misinformed. Oh, and thanks for that Cult of X comment, by the way. Speaking of Cult of X, it was also the server leak in this thread. Before I strip down this shite response, I gotta say that for some reason, Avery wanted to keep Normal CD, a character made by a groomer, in the legal instruction. Granted, I do believe in separate the art from the artist, yes, but knowing that Avery obviously hates Faker because of his creator just screams hypocrisy. But yeah, they made a response to EXE Burner's thread and took their leave. Let's go over that. While you may not support Jester Frog's actions, you still supported her and downplayed said actions. And if you did want her to change and get help, then don't downplay her actions by saying she's better than Revy. That's bullshit and you know it. You say that she tried to make some change for herself. No, she fucking didn't. She said herself that she did not need therapy, while Revy did much less and still went to therapy. You misinterpreted part of that whole situation. Bitch, you had multiple rumors exposed before, so why didn't you look into it when you discovered something happened? Oh, support to see your change apparently. Yeah, that's why you keep your head up and ignore when people say, shut the fuck up. Okay, so there was an update doc in November apologizing for Jester Frog's involvement, claiming to go to therapy, and telling people not to trust the impersonators. I don't buy it one bit. Thankfully, Mudo called out Avery's bullshit. Jester Frog was only kicked out of illegal instruction because people kept leaving. Said people apparently knew of her actions and didn't do jack shit about it.
God
Mudo
damn.
didn't speak up before because he was too scared to get involved. Yeah, people who call it scumbags do get blamed for making people suicidal. It also turns out there was proof of Avery knowing as well. Someone spoke about a thread Infinite Jr. made, we'll get to that later, which Neu Chrome agreed with. Pascal made a response too, so let's go over that. So you say you learned about the issue, but when? You made this response 6 hours after the call-out went up. And if exposing a private friend server is a shitty thing for you to do, then say that to Revy's face, you hypocritical piece of shit. You're tired of issues like these being treated as exposed material. My brother in Christ, you supported someone who saved fucking CP. Now that I think about it, why do you all just say what Chesterfield did instead of directly stating what she did? Now the solution is communication, yet you weren't
Going on
willing to
33
talk about
minutes.
it?
God damn.
Maybe that's why you're called False Cow. No, False Cow, you don't have a right to be disappointed. Oh, and if communication is important, then why did Pillsbury Doughboy admit your Revy thread was rushed once she found out about it? So this isn't the way to handle it? Again, you supported a fucking groomer. The public deserves to know how you pull shit out of your ass. You should understand that people disapprove because everyone should disapprove of you. You've dealt with this bullshit before, why do you not prevent it another time? Or are you just too pussy to talk about Revy? False Cow dropped another doc a couple days later, so let's break that down. Yeah, I get you don't support her actions, but that's the bare minimum. If you weren't friends or close, then why the fuck did you get involved in giving her advice? No, you didn't just support getting her therapy, you downplayed her actions too. Come to think of it, you didn't have time for this, yet you had time for Revy, which was a larger rabbit hole? Seems legit. Apparently you had suspicions that Chesterfog didn't get therapy yet didn't do anything about it? What? Also, how does Chesterfog being a minor make things difficult? She was 17, which is not at all far from 18. You didn't want to judge without the full context, especially with your own experiences. That would be a fair point, but the context was easy to look for, especially with the people you associate with. You actually thought Chesterfrog owned up to her actions, which is why you hated comparison to Revy. Again, context was easy to look for, and Revy did own up to everything. What are you on about? You even had that in your second thread. If you only learned the story the day the doc came up, then what's the response for? Oh, but you actually apologize for your ignorance. Neat. But you're still avoiding the Revy fiasco. And for what? And suddenly you talk about victims being silenced and then make
Is
shit
that
about yourself. This is just sympathy,
good?
baby. And if you take online SA and CSA
I like
seriously,
it. It
whatever
came
the
out
fuck that means,
decently
then why did
interesting.
you just ignore the Jester Frog bullshit? Instead, you decided to go down a rabbit hole of your own rather than just checking a doc. Unbelievable.
I like the way this came out, I'll be
Then you
honest.
admit you have a hero complex, which was your
Such,
motive in the
I
Revy
kind of like it. It
situation.
came out kind of cool.
Why am I not surprised? Oh,
Now,
hey, another actual apology.
the coloring
Good on you.
phase.
Yes, yes, you did encourage and
Boom,
defend that.
boom,
Shut
boom,
it.
boom.
It feels like you just put more effort into formatting the doc than what the doc actually had to say here. This isn't the first groomer in the community. Why did you not check the goddamn details? Oh, wait,
Alright,
blatant favoritism.
the coloring
Now,
phase,
let's just go
baby.
over the Justified section of the second doc.
Let's do it for the
You
head.
blame your friends for molding your opinion. What a start. You say you blindly admit what you're told,
Oh,
even though
wait, hold
you've been
up.
involved in 4 situations like this before: JC, Shannon, Driftstar, and Revy.
Uh,
Then you equate Jester Frog as
you
an
know what? I feel like I
abuser
should
to
make you
you
say
as a
drop symbol.
victim.
Give me a minute.
You don't just compare the two after you know who's who. Then you say you were misguided. True. You say EXE Burner should have privately communicated, yet both GameReel and Large Lenny mentioned it in their respective videos. You then admit everyone was at fault. Correct. But then you say no one was informed when Avery sure as hell was. Then just a random tangent about ignorance, bystanding, and responsibility.
Copy the
But this is
frame
about
so
your
you don't
part.
fuck it up.
That's deflecting blame. You didn't get involved because of Revy, apparently. Well, that sure paid off, didn't it? The rest is just blaming others instead of yourself, as well as the community, and then going back on the Revy section. To sum up, this is just finding blame in everyone to avoid mentioning your own, acting like no one knew despite the fact it was public, a fuck ton of comparisons, and where the victim blamers? Grow the fuck up. All Adam's response boils down to is, well, he went private, so we can't really know. Also, he's still dating Jester Frog, apparently. Before Adam's Twitter went private, it showed that he was 20 and Jester Frog was 17.
Oh no.
Inception, anyone? Hey, remember
Oh
Kenny and Tia?
fuck no.
Yeah, they made a response too. Tia's thread is just, we were too busy to know, and there's missing context. She also calls it unfair and scummy. Maybe she should check who she actively talks to, then we'll see unfair. Infinite Jr.'s screenshot being as old as it is was not out of pettiness, but because he was thrown out of the server and couldn't get a new one. Oh, and we'll get to him later. Now, let's dive into the first part of Kenny's doc. The other part we'll save for later. You're hurt? Bro, you did a bad here. What kind of start is this? You then request that people not associate with him anymore. Again, this is about you, you dumb balding son of a bitch. Jasper immediately gets thrown out too, but we'll get to that later. All of this, yet you still give Avery a chance. They were not negligent. They just lack a moral compass. But to give credit where credit is due, Kenny doesn't condone Jester Frog's publicity, vouched for False Cow, and actually thanked EXE Burner. As for Jester Frog, you didn't have the whole context. I think we all get the point by now. You're just making excuses. You were also disappointed at everyone and blamed Jasper? And you downplayed Avery's role in defending Jester Frog? They were her main defender, and it's as clear as glass. But you also support people trying to better themselves and say it still doesn't negate what she did. Cool. All you knew was something happened and that she was trying to be better? Fair enough, I guess. Now, it's unacceptable that they never tried to check out the one doc that showed everything about Jester Frog, especially since Kenny later famously said he knew so much about Revy. However, considering how they were actually pretty busy, I'll write this off as a mistake out of ignorance, not apathy. Hope you didn't forget GPT and on, because we're gonna go over their additions real quick. For False Cow, they point out his hypocrisy, how he clearly showed support for Jester Frog, and the fact that supporters look like Mr. I may be a pedophile, but at least I'm not rude. For Jasper, there's a whole bunch of supporting Jester Frog, which I won't go into, but it'll still be in the evidence folder for completion. And then there's Adam. There's some screen caps that show he's got a big ol' case of I'm just sorry I got caught. Keep in mind that from what we could tell, he was still dating Jester Frog at the time. Now,
Oh,
GPT
no.
and I talked with Adam since he privated, so let's decipher what we can. Adam told a sob story from Damage Control, proved that he knew about Jester Frog, and responded even though no one can see it. GPT Anon shows that Adam revealed that he knew, confirmed to him about Jester Frog not going to therapy, meaning that Adam lied again. Infinite Jr. also gave his 2 cents, so let's cover that as well. He admits to supporting her as bunny tables and reveals a
Not
new
bad.
server called Hell Michigan, which is a server with big EXE names similar to Cult of X. After the allegations surfaced, people let her stay thinking she changed. This reveals that Infinite supported her at the time, even to the point of letting her go on as EXE. Apparently she was involved in the allegations too, yet Tia showed that discussion was on July 8th, when Jester Frog and Infinite were cool mere days before. What a fucking backstabber. He also mentions his own cancellation and how people still supported Jester Frog, making them hypocrites. Then Adam trying to safe face, that's literally it. He also offered peace to his own slanderers, but Game Rule will get to that whole thing later. Infinite then reveals other people in Hell, Michigan, including Jack Gore, Egophobia, and KG Peppers. The rest is just rambling that's irrelevant to Jester Frog. Now, back to the live Rightburst reaction. Actually, I shouldn't really call it live since EXE Burner showed screenshots that proved someone told Rightburst about Jester Frog beforehand. He then responded to EXE Burner saying that it was a Revy supporter and that he believed Avery properly handled the situation. EXE Burner deleted the screenshots after that, probably out of intimidation. But EXE Burner came back with more screenshots showing that the aforementioned someone was Nimbus Cumulus. Nimbus explained the situation to Rightburst, not giving him shit about the whole Revy thing. Well, he's actually pretty nice, giving Rightburst advice. Heh, that rhymes. Nimbus and Rightburst shit-talked the 3.0 team as well as put a pin on the dementia thing. Rightburst's second response is just fucking hell. He tries to prove Nimbus is a Revy supporter and falls flat on his face. Nimbus actually seemed neutral on Revy, yet gave Rightburst a helpful critique. As for Jester Frog again, he did what he could about getting her out of illegal destruction and left the rest to Avery. Basically, every response was I didn't know except for Rightburst, somehow. It seems like a sufficient point at first, but both Game Rule and Large Lenny pointed out in their respective videos, and it took a fucking Twitter thread to get people's attention. You wannabe saints are fucking unbelievable. All in all, everyone fucked up that definitely made the backlash earned. Except Avery and Adam, those two can go to hell. Ah, fuck, I forgot a response. Jasper responded with, holy shit, this is big. Yeah, I'm not experienced enough for this one.
Okay, Jasper's apologies. Kind of the standard fare for this. I supported their growth, not the previous actions, again. Yeah, fair, whatever. He says that he understands people disliking his decision and that he viewed Jester Frog as two kids putting themselves in danger. I mean, to be honest, kinda. The victim was in danger of being groomed, and Jester Frog was in danger of being exposed. He says that his views were apparently tainted through his own trauma and that he's already basically ready to be hated. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a second. He then says that he forgot to unfriend Jester Frog because of his ADHD, and apparently even had the same thing happen with his own abuser. That does certainly explain it, but it can be read as a cheap excuse. He then keeps talking about his bad mental health and how he is not a lolly or a shotacon, and ends it with moving on from the account and saying that he doesn't want to be defended. He talks about wishing to have been talked to first, and about something happening in March, which again we'll get to. And until now it was all normal, but this is where it starts getting weird. Niuchrome, the director and creator of Sonic.exe Rerun, suddenly calls him out for drawing NSFW of people's characters, some of those people being minors, without consent. Again, we'll get back to that. Now, for some reason, she didn't call out Avery too for not giving a shit, considering it's apparently a problem. Honestly, the reasoning Nayu gives in these screenshots for why it's a problem is also fucking weird, and I'm uncomfortable. Bro, the world doesn't revolve around you. A sentiment of theirs that will also matter later. It then ends with confirmation from Avery that Jasper doesn't do it anymore. Wait, then why the fuck are you calling him out on it? And why do you do it 2 months after this combo, while he's already been called up for something actually fucking noteworthy? Fuck off, Nayu. Like, she isn't even a special case. Jasper got so much shit from so many people that he ended up having a mental breakdown or three and being mocked for having a quote-unquote Joker arc, which I'll admit I was also kinda guilty for back then. It was met with fucking apathy by people like KG Beepus, and we'll get back to you, you piece of shit. Now, how this would have been supposed to go is just an apology, the community's reaction, and that's it. But the way everyone reacted and the way Jasper talked about this leaves me a few sudden questions. 1. What the fuck happened in March? And about that, Avery spoke of March and the DMs Nayu leaked, so is it connect to drawing NSFW of the Miners character? Next, why the fuck was Jasper so ready to be hated? Like, saying something about it having happened before. Third question, why did Nayu talk to fucking Avery about being uncomfortable with Jasper instead of, with Jasper himself? Fourth, why did Nayo bring those salty M's out either way if it was apparently already resolved? 5. Why did Jasper have such a bad breakdown while everyone else in the Jester Frog situation just left normally, gave a response, and stayed, or just ignored it? And, last but not least, why was that breakdown met with apathy? The quest to answer these fucking questions led me down a massive rabbit hole. This is probably gonna be like the longest chapter in this fucking video. So strap on, let's do this. Okay, so in March, everything started with a twit longer made by KGBeepus, so we're off to a great fucking start. Jasper is immediately bombarded with the following accusations: mass manipulation, possible faking of OSDD, over-sexualization of characters made by minors, creation of pornography of characters without creator consent, public NSFW content with easy access, no reinforced management of NSFW channels regarding the protection of minors, and fictional glorification of abuse. Immediately, the twit longer mentions some previous posts being deleted, which, fantastic, we didn't need full context anyway. But those are still a lot of claims about Jasper, so how about we check the reasoning out? Okay, first, that whole shebang about the OSDD thing, which is short for Other Specified Dissociative Disorder. It's, similar to DID, but not the same thing. That has some issues. 1. No diagnosis doesn't mean it's fake, it just means it's undiagnosed. Next, the speed of the splitting also doesn't mean anything. Everyone's neurodivergency is different, you are not a fucking psychologist. Third, multiple witnesses with OSDD, DID is vague as shit, and talking so vaguely about witnesses is one of the oldest lies in the book. Also, people with a disorder aren't automatically experts on it. A heart attack survivor ain't a fucking heart surgeon. Then something sexualization of characters owned by minors, who fucking cares? Look, until Jasper actually sexualizes a minor, please shut the fuck up. Separate art and artists for fuck's sake, especially if the characters are adults. Then some point about lewd depictions of other creators' characters without consent? What kind of point is this? Let me just ask Sega per mail if I can use Sonic for porn, since apparently creator consent is needed for fan works. Seriously, I do get the sentiment of putting creators first, especially indie creators, but this is fucking stupid. Why would you call someone out over this? Next up, the NSFW account not being locked. I just want to preface this by saying, literally 99% of NSFW accounts on Twitter are not fucking private. You just get blocked if you follow as a minor. And yeah, it makes sense. Not everyone wants to follow in order to look at the porn. That's literally how this works. People need to judge this shit for themselves. Seriously, why are you bringing this shit up specifically against Jasper? Oh, and if you really cared about the safety of minors, why did you not censor it and instead just bring more attention to that fucking account? Next up, some point about the server having no restriction of NSFW channels, instead just a role rather than the age restriction that is integrated into Discord. This one's actually a valid point. Congratulations! The first one out of 5 so far. Next up, Curse's story is straight up called abuse glorification. I don't think I need to tell you this is fucking stupid, but let's talk about it. 1. Vent art is a thing, you dickheads. It just exists. Let people get their emotions out that way, and their feelings and everything else. Next, it's not romanticized in the slightest. The whole point of Curse is to show how fucking terrible abuse can be. That's the whole story. And yes, that point about Curse being essentially Jasper's second Sona may be correct, but irrelevant. That still doesn't make this abuse glorification. That's the end of the twit longer. We do get some statements by Kenny and KGBeepus.
There we go.
Fucking course Kenny is involved in this. And let's just quickly go through them as I have a thing or two to say. Now, on Kenny's statement, he says that he also started the investigation on Jasper and Uptaunt alongside KG. Uptaunt is definitely warranted, but Jasper really isn't. He says that he won't let people feel unsafe, pressured, or scared due to others, but will most certainly make everyone fear him by continuously spreading lies about people like Jasper and Infinite, thus forcing people to fall in line for him. And yes, we'll talk about Infinite later. I did not do this with ill intention. Yeah, then why the fuck did you lie, Kenny? We found an entire hell of a mess I was not expecting. You made one seemingly good point, and I'm just waiting on making my rebuttal in a second. I'm not happy, I'm not proud, I'm disappointed. Oh, fuck off, you bold motherfucker.
Hey, what's up,
took
man?
The wrong course of action. I will not debate or offer rebuttal. Wait, Kenny, I think this phrasing doesn't get the point across well enough. Let me fix that for you. I will not acknowledge any and all criticism you give me. There, fixed it. Leave Tia and me alone. We feel betrayed by Jasper, he was like a brother to me. And that's why you spread bullshit like this and never talk to him directly. Right. I am still grappling with the facts of what was brought to light. How fucking overdramatic can you be? Remember, one good point. Alright, next up, KG's statement. Let's get into it. Now, apparently, this is just a call for Jasper to seek help. Sure, buddy, that's where you spread nonsensical claims. You are responsible for the recent sexualization of the X community. Bro, Kenny literally helped you with this tweet longer. And Kenny made Rebooted. Leave all platforms, drop your public image. Wow, you really just asked him to give up his current life like that over complete nonsense. You are no longer welcome in the X community. Well, at least you cunts know that you manipulated it into something that you few people can control. You will be dropped from all projects you are associated with, and I will see to that personally. Okay, first of all, this line would actually be justified if Jasper did provably do something wrong, which just doesn't seem to be the case. This way, it just makes KG looks like a psycho, and it won't be the last time he looks like one. Okay, after these two horrendous statements, we have a massive Imgur thread, which I'll also go through now. It's basically the evidence for this twit longer, so I guess it's important. Let's get into it. I'll skip over anything I have nothing to say on because it's either empty or whatever. Okay, the fourth image has something interesting. It talks about the lack of strictness in the NSFW rules, but like, the rules are crystal clear. Nothing was enforced. Yeah, fair point, but it's not really proven either. And now again, the role thing actually
guys,
has a reason
saving
I'll get
something.
into, but for now, why the fuck didn't you talk to Jasper about this first? Then the seventh image is about coercion, apparently, but the other person agrees to it, so I don't know if that really counts? Then 7 through 12 all take place strictly in the NSFW channel. Just like, keep this in mind, everything NSFW here happens in the NSFW channel. Then 7 and 10 are literally repeat evidence, this one's just fucking random. And the 12th one just shows that asking nicely is apparently coercion now. The fuck? 13 through 18, the claims about the NSFW account were stupid enough. This just makes him look even dumber somehow. Having NSFW unlocked is nothing new. 17 and 18 are proof that Jasper actually listened and privated the NSFW account, which is apparently a bad thing? Then 19 through 21 is this without permission
How the
bullshit
fuck
again.
is it
And it looks
bad if
even
someone
dumber in
privates
practice,
the damn
just like the
account?
unlocked NSFW account. 22 for 24. Like, wow, exes really aren't allowed to be horrible people anymore. I was fucking right when I said that last time. Then 25 through 34. Can you guys seriously shut the fuck up? This is not glorifying abuse in any way. It's made to look as horrible as possible. Like, seriously, you see it in, like, 29, that Curse's story is a fucking melodrama. Sure, but that ain't something to cancel Jasper over. It's a genre. And then, like, the claim of 31 is just hilarious. Strictly negativity, no healing process. A, not every fucking story needs to be positive, you twat. Like, that's literally the beauty of fiction. And B, this literally shows Curse having someone to support him. That's literally part of the healing process. Then, okay, next up, 35 through 38. Why the fuck is a non-therapist acting like they know how quickly someone of OSDD can have splits? Again, everyone is different in this shit.
People are
And
idiotic.
then with number 39, here's something interesting for you. Trauma is not a necessary factor for splitting, just the most common cause for OSDD and DID. Splits can happen for many different reasons. Do some fucking research, please. So, that's the March situation. A bullshit twit longer with one point that doesn't immediately fall apart. And I'm now left to assume that this is what led to such a community outcry that Jasper was ready to be hated. Now, while I am not sure if the community outcry was actually that bad, because I wasn't there for it, I was definitely there to see the fallout the Exaburner callout had on Jasper. His mental health was just fucked, and he eventually went over to fucking 4chan. Okay, so imagine this. A whole community turns against you, and you kinda lose everything. And the last safe haven you have is a 4chan board. And then you end up having a fucking breakdown on it. That's not a good breakdown. That was really not great. When I found out about it, I went over to the board and decided to give him some, life advice alongside my brutal honesty. Because, I think that's the best way to show that I'm genuine with this. The whole situation genuinely fucked him over, and he even realized that he was fucking borderline through it. The situation ended with him getting better, and after a bunch more things I won't share, he and I got into contact on Discord. I will now show you what he had to say in a, let's call it an interview with me. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm just going to be sharing Jasper's explanations for his own actions. This is not me excusing them, I'm still rather critical of them. It's the same sentiment of supporting his growth, not his actions. I just want him to have a voice after it was taken from him so often. Alright? Alright. The Jester Frog situation was out of ignorance, not malice. Jasper takes full accountability and is aware of his mistakes. He did look over the Jester Frog exposed doc, but didn't fully understand it, and it led him to false conclusions. He didn't even properly realize that CP was involved. Then he also says that the ADHD part of the apology was apparently just read wrong. It was just an explanation, not an excuse. Now, if anyone actually accepts it, is up to them. My own judgment will remain unsaid. Okay, next I brought out that weird-ass comparison
we got
he
us
did on
a good
4chan,
while.
Jester Frog and Revy under the name Ferret. He did say it was both a genuine concern regarding Revy as well as just him being petty over some personal squabbles with her. He is willing to admit that the concern was unrealistic as the comparison was just 3 months after the original call-out, and that change just doesn't happen that quickly in humans. He is now indifferent and says that both him and Revy will just stay in their lanes, not clashing with each other. Then we talked about that twit longer, and he says that role locking a channel overrides the NSFW lock. That does make me ask why it was even role locked, but yeah, okay. He also admits that he never ID checked anyone, which he now does in his personal friend server. But most of the other claims are still fucking random bullshit, so don't think that Kenny and KG actually made some good points. Also, funny thing, Kenny and False Cow, who's also involved in this mess, never confronted Jasper because they were apparently scared of him. What the fuck? But he took it to the public first? Okay, seriously, Jasper is the least scary person in the whole fucking community. I swear to God, I'm not buying that excuse. Fuck off. Then we discussed Nayu's completely random call out, and he just says that he didn't even draw actual porn, just slightly suggestive art. If you squint, we'll get to that suggestive art soon enough. He didn't even have any suggestive intentions in that art, which, yeah, he didn't. Again, we'll get to that art piece in a second. And that it's based on the assumption that people in the adult chats were minors, which is a weird ass assumption. And again, that idea of it's a minors OC is still fucking stupid and doesn't change a thing. He goes on to speak about how people do everything except for actually talking to him, and it's, become a recurring thing. Speaking of people who refuse to talk to him, we next discussed KG and his apathy. Now, Jasper apparently thought that they were close, which, isn't that just fun to have someone you think you're close with make that fucking twit longer on you? Jesus. Ooh. But then, eventually, KG admitted to liking neither Jasper nor Curse. But he was just never transparent about it until he was fucking confronted, which is just kinda disgusting. Seriously, how hard is it to be honest about that shit? When I then comment on the sudden switch and how the community treated him, he showed me tweets of him telling people to quit fucking white knighting him. Apparently his fans almost got someone to fucking kill themselves. It was Kenny, as after Jasper was proven innocent from the March twit longer, people were rightfully angry. By the way, can I just say that it's ironic how Kenny would later be involved in an infinite situation, but again, we'll get to that later.
God,
next up,
damn.
I just kinda mentioned the Joker arc offhand, but it turned out that was actual, genuine self-sabotage. In case you didn't notice it yet, Jasper was insanely mentally fucked from all this. He didn't have any meds, no sleep, no food, nothing really ever since the exit burner fed. He lost over 50 friends, turned out to have borderline, and has abandonment issues that people fucking knew about. Christ. And I guess on a lighter note, Jasper did give Curse away to someone called Madman, who we'll also get to later. But eventually, after my talk with him, Jasper came back for a moment with a proper apology for all his mistakes. He just really wanted to be held accountable for them. He decides to remove himself from as many spaces as possible and now actively goes to therapy and is trying to improve himself. I can vouch for that, by the way. He says that he is tired of running away and will now force himself to be better. He apparently even tried to kill himself, which opened his eyes. I
don't remember if it was around the time of the...
No more self.
I think it was around the time of the drama. Anyway,
All in all, I think this is a fantastic
Jasper
book.
had
It's just too bad it got deleted due to
it was just a little
terrible
simple thing.
responses.
It's not
Wait,
important to the
Egophobia?
story.
Weren't you in Hell, Michigan? A server
But
that
it
also
fucking-
housed Chester Frog? Like seriously,
I
you've
drew
both been
some
called out
art
for the same
of one of the
shit. Fuck
characters
off, you
before.
twat. Okay, so long story short, Jasper gets mistreated way too much. Straight up, this is
I liked
just
it.
as bad as Revy, if not
I thought it
worse.
was cool.
But now that I went down this rabbit hole, I can answer the questions from the start. What happened in March was a twitlonger full of wrong or shit accusations. Jasper was ready to be hated because shit like that twitlonger caused tons of harassment before. People not discussing their issues with Jasper himself is a recurring issue. Only known reason for that is that bullshit about being afraid of him, which I still don't buy. I have no idea why Nayu brought that disproven shit back up. She's just a petty piece of shit, I guess. Next, Jasper's mental breakdown was so bad because this was a fucking cycle of abuse against him by now. And it was met with apathy because people apparently just really like mistreating Jasper. So that's it then, rabbit
That
hole
is
solved, right?
upsetting.
Okay. Speaking of people who own curs getting harassed. Wait, what the fuck is this document? Discovered concerns regarding Jasper May and Upton. Interesting. Wait, 133 pages? What the fuck? Okay, first things first. I just want to remind you guys that Jasper is a heavily abused and mistreated member of the exit community, while Upton is a sexual harasser that was still supported long after that was known. That makes these two people a weird fucking duo to talk about, but let's check this doc out and see what it has to say. Also, this will be heavily summarized, otherwise this chapter alone would take at least 2 hours. Something of note here is that, just like with every other False Cow doc, this is not fucking
What about the
downloadable. So if there
fucking-
was outcry, they could just
what
easily
you
delete
call
it
it?
without any trace of it left. Because that's an option honest people always need to keep open.
Gotta redeem my
It's apparently
mic
also a
eventually.
response to another document by Avery. Wow, great, this really can't get any more complex, can it? Okay, let's then quickly talk about Avery's doc. Now, this doc is a response to KG's twitlonger. Avery goes on to say that he doesn't condone drawing NSFW of OCs without the owner's permission, but once again I have to ask who the fuck cares. But they also do believe that it should have been addressed better. Now apparently Jasper never publicly advertised his NSFW account, meaning that minors probably wouldn't even know of it, unless they saw it in the call out post. So congrats Kenny and KG, you really protected the minors there. Next up is just an obvious point
fuck
that
is
curse isn't
Kenny?
abuse glorification, it's venting and a coping mechanism. Genuinely, what the fuck was the thought process behind this shitty point? Oh, here's something interesting about that sexualization of a minor's OC. It wasn't NSFW at all, the character is aged up to around 30, and the owner fucking asked for it. Now, KG and Kenny apparently still contacted the owner about it, apparently found out that they asked for it, and still made that shitty accusation. And this was confirmed by Bomnon. If you don't know who that is, it's an artist that's rather reputable in the exit community. Also, fun fact, Kenny lied about contacting Jasper ahead of time and him not cooperating. Okay, no, I need to expand on this. First of all, he admitted to being the guy who started all this while saying that he contacted Jasper and only got denial. He said that about him, both publicly and privately. Meanwhile, their actual only instance of contact was a call about Jasper's interactions with Kenny's fiancée, Tia, which was also made unnecessarily public, by the way. Jasper later tried to reach back out the next fucking day, but got fucking blocked.
This
Jojo,
is-
Chad that they
wow.
are, tried to resolve this shit. Kenny said that Jasper didn't reach
yeah,
out
Jojo,
the day after
NSFW.
their 11-minute call, but apparently had him unblocked the entire time, waiting for him to reach out. What the fuck? Wait, you're waiting for him to reach out instead of you who actually has the problem here. Okay, whatever. I just cannot speak to them with how they're behaving. Kenny, shut the fuck up. What do you mean by how they're behaving? You fucking man-child. But Jojo, still being like the best person in this fucking community, tells him to directly talk to Jasper because that's how you handle shit like this. Then they go over to Jasper and convince him to talk to Kenny, but once Jasper does that, he gets no fucking response. So, Kenny, do you want Jasper to reach out to you or not? Seriously, when you keep flip-flopping like this, it's getting harder and harder to take you seriously. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, Kenny clearly did not focus on contacting the person he's accusing of shit. And this is not the last time this
I like
happened,
where this is coming.
but again, later. Okay, let's just finish up every stock real
The
quick.
face of
Then
course.
there's a whole ass fucking convo where Jasper admits to his faults to Calm and the latter just cheering him up. And the rest is about Upton, so quick speed round. He acted terribly around minors, which is very fucking vague, but whatever. And it should have apparently still not been a public issue. So even when they were right, that fucking twitlonger was moronic. Congrats, you two. Now, this doc also ends with some statements, but considering that we have a 133 page doc to get back to, I'd rather skip them and tell you to look into this yourself. Seriously, these statements are a bit interesting. Just the frog fucking cameos here. So, can we now get to the big doc I want to talk about? No fuckers, we still have another 6-page one by Avery,
No
Jasper, and
fuckers.
KG called Final Statement. So let's get into it real quick. Okay, this starts with a thank you message to Avery for the doc that I just discussed. KG Beepus has supposedly also apologized, but Kenny and Tia have stayed completely silent. It's also just clarified that KG's involvement in the twitlonger was rather minor. He may have published it, but he was essentially just used by Kenny and Tia as a shield so that they could run away. And it worked. KG ended up being heavily harassed. And he apparently owned up to his mistakes, so that's Gucci. Now, Kenny's and Tia's response leaves a lot to be desired. Because there is none. There's no closure, no reaching out, nothing. For fuck's sake, guys, say something when you slander someone. Then, after things calmed down, Avery finally got Kenny to add Jasper again, but nothing was said. Kenny just talked to someone directly for
This
once
shit
in
is
your fucking
crazy,
life.
though.
He apparently acknowledged his mistakes in DMs of Avery, but never did anything to change. So yeah, that's basically the doc. We'll skip the final statements again. Let's just talk about the main fucking course already. No more interruptions. Okay, so this big doc starts by acknowledging that mistakes were made and they take accountability. An unclear "we" is used, and the formatting and the download function being turned off just shows that Falsco made this doc. And since KG is no longer involved at this time, that basically means it's just him, Tia, and Kenny. And then we get a fucking legal disclaimer. Holy shit! That's one way to avoid your repercussions for the crime of slander. Okay, next up there's 2 Imgur threads again. One on Upton, one on Jasper. I've already discussed the one on Jasper, so I'm skipping that, but the Upton one, real quick. 1 through 3 show that Upton, an adult, 18, for some reason the age isn't mentioned, was flirting with Kubikork, a minor, 16. Now, this leaves the question as to why the fuck Upton's name was not mentioned directly. This is like literally the same shit they pulled with Revi. It's a lie by omission. Like, yeah, it's definitely worth criticizing, don't get me wrong, but you guys made him look like a pedophile here. Then the rest of this thread is either him putting NSFW shit on the timelines of his potentially underage followers and being overly sexual and making people uncomfortable, both of which are very valid complaints, I'll be real. Like I said, Upton definitely deserves this criticism. I'm just having a problem with how Jasper is handled here. We can now get into the main meat of this all, but that does require some sub-chapters because of how massive this doc is. So we'll be going through the chapters of the doc. Introduction, regarding Jasper May's perspective on the situation, regarding the remaining inconsistencies within Jasper's statement, regarding sexual content, the exposure of such and given consent,
Okay.
regarding curse and the cautioned fictional
that
glorification
hand,
of
though.
abuse, and regarding speculations on OSTD system concerns. Couple things real quick. Why the fuck are you guys so hyper-focused on Jasper? What's with this stupid regarding thing? This is a call-out dog,
Jesus
don't be
Christ.
fucking artsy about it.
Alright, guys, we hit the 1 hour and 10-minute mark. I gotta fucking put my chameleon to sleep, but I will be back after that.
correct. And I should probably
Alright,
just
guys,
skip over
I'm
at least
back.
half of these chapters, because those claims have never
Wait,
had
shit.
any substance.
Actually, give me one more second. Alright, we are back. I just got some water. Let's continue.
Behind them. But for the sake of intellectual honesty, I will not skip over anything. Alright, first up, that introduction. After the initial situation of Uptaunt, he kept posting NSFW shit, which, yeah, fair complaint. Or, well, it would be if they weren't on his ass for just answering someone's question because they are 17. Also, what the fuck is he supposed to do other than put no minors in his bio?
Wait, what the
He's
fuck?
still a public figure. Then apparently a character design is NSFW because his belly is exposed and he has a minuscule bulge. I guess it's a fair concern, but it's funny how just implying that a penis exists is no NSFW content. This is what the FNF community has come to. Then Jasper also gets shit because he retweeted that design. Oh no.
When we started
Eventually, Upton did make an
having,
apology for the claims made
EXE
against
mods.
him, and that apology is getting quote-unquote dissected in this doc. I say quote-unquote because it has some massive fucking issues. So first of all, explaining why you did what you did, which in Upton's case was an unhealthy coping mechanism, is apparently taking away accountability. Immediately after that bullshit, they complain that Upton doesn't explain what he's coping with. A, shit like that can be insanely private, and B, you would have just said that he would be taking away accountability either way, so why bother? Then, Fosco has the audacity to call this a vague and dismissive apology, like he's one to talk. Then apparently they all have a problem with him following minors while still having no minors in his bio, which is weird because he just has their content on his timeline and not vice versa. So what exactly is the problem here?
Alright, goddamn.
Next, they are supposedly
Animation
concerned
time.
for the minors
He looks
following
cool.
him. To which I just gotta ask, are you sure that you're just not too ashamed to admit that you're wrong?
Unless
He's
I
not a
can make
fucking
their heads
pedo and
small,
not an active threat to minors, even if he is fucked up in other ways. And this is everything on Upton the stock has to offer. It ends on page 9 out of 133. So, let's see what they have to say on Jasper then. Okay, before anything else, I just quickly want to say that constantly referring to Revived, one of Jasper's headmates,
Jesus.
as
Wow.
Jasper/Rev is insanely
that was on
disrespectful,
Pulse
as you have
Night.
yet to prove that Jasper is faking OSDD. Seriously, quit fucking acting like you proved it. Now, I wouldn't even need to prove to you that Jasper's system believing that KG's subtweet is about Jasper is a rational thought, because, you know, it ended up being true, but I'll still do my best. Keep in mind that Kenny just randomly removed him from the server and threw a shit fit the day before in his DMs. You saying that there's no supportive evidence doesn't make it true. Kenny made it clear that Upton and Jasper were thrown out for personal reasons, so it was clear that
Should it be
something was
small?
brewing considering how much of a dickhead Kenny is. Then they have the fucking
much of a
gall to
dickhead
call
Kenny
someone
is.
who's talking about how they're rightfully worried that they'll be fucked over mass manipulation. Also, Revived saying I fear for our safety likely refers to the system, not Uptwa, you cunts. Oh, and no, telling people to not approach Kenny about this until Jasper can is not fucking controlling. This isn't about stopping people from informing themselves through Kenny, this is about Jasper solving it privately, which Kenny seems to be fucking allergic to. Seriously, nobody ever talked to Jasper or Revived in this. Of course they don't want others to get involved and be misinformed. Jesus. Next, there's some comment about there being no contact until JoJo's intervention, which I just need to say, for the sake of a timeline, this was on March 3rd, literally a day after Jasper's and Kenny's last call, and then Jasper still reached out the same fucking day. Chill. Seriously, give people time to heal first, you self-obsessed brats! Instead of initiating a straightforward approach to Kenny's behavior, it was phrased as a genuine inquiry into Kenny's well-being. Well, yeah, duh, because Jasper wants to be kind and not immediately kick down Kenny's metaphorical door guns blazing. You don't know how the conversation could have gone if Kenny responded. Then, Kenny is unnerved at Jasper having screenshots from the server, so he really does want to keep everything secret, huh? Revive then tries to speculate as to why Kenny would do all this. Then he comes up with an quite honestly understandable reason of false grooming allegations, as Jasper was 19 at the time and Upton was 18. If you remember the age gap between Madzilla and Revi, this is nothing unprecedented. KG then comes in and tells him to relax and not bother, while Revive is stressed because Jasper was closing his fucking headmates off. It's definitely understandable to say he was aggressive. You don't shut down people like that while they're panicking. And then I'm just gonna give you a hilarious line that I will quote word by word. While we do acknowledge that Kenny's behavior around the time of the conversation was indeed vague. No, stop. Full stop here. Be fucking clear, then people won't have to guess like this. You cannot blame someone for fucking panicking when they don't know what's gonna happen to them. Be clear. Communicate. Fucking hell, Kenny. But when Jasper publicly talks about it and clearly states what happened, that gets called guilt tripping and emotional manipulation. You know, if a factual statement of what you did makes you look like horrible people, then maybe that's not manipulation, but you're just horrible people. Luckily, as said before, Jojo comes in for the rescue, makes Jasper approach Kenny. Kenny is being a twat about it and doesn't react. He apparently doesn't want to discuss anything because he knew of the private chat, for fuck's sake. Why do you keep jumping to conclusions like this, Kenny? Why are you being such a man-child, Kenny? And no, I'm not joking about that being Kenny's reason for not talking to him. I quote, "We suspect that Jasper/Rev may have been attempting to cover up what was being said in the off-topic channel, and that Jasper was not aware of the fact that Kenny held the knowledge of the contents within his messages to others." Seriously, where the fuck does this come from? Jasper is not this kind of person, and you fucking know that. Like, this is literally him doing what Jojo told him to. What the fuck do you want from him? And then when discussing the quote-unquote remaining inconsistencies within Jasper's statement, they talk about shit like Jasper rightfully complaining about not being contacted, but Falsco immediately blaming him for the same thing. Bro, that was Kenny's responsibility, and you know it. And also Jasper's good point of, I've made it expressly clear to everyone that if I do something out of line to hold me accountable, gets ignored, weirdly enough. Then it turns out that Jasper calling his mistake, which, reminder, is him not being strict enough of hiding NSFW from minors, a fuck up, is apparently an issue to these pieces of shit. And no, I do not care about what justification they give. This is just way too fucking pedantic. Then the funniest part of this doc. Nobody forced him to make his trauma public. Yes, you fucking did. You called Curse's story abuse glorification and denied his OSDD, both of which exist specifically due to Jasper's trauma. Curse exists for Jasper to vent, the OSDD is directly caused by it. So neither claim could properly be debunked without making the trauma public. This is coercion, just in an indirect manner. Then, in another attempt to make Jasper look as bad as possible, him explaining things how they are is called a way to garner sympathy. No, like I said before, it only looks the way because you guys acted like actual fucking sociopaths. Cool. Of course he looks sympathetic, he's the victim. Then, when Jasper says that he never drew anything out of line, which we have no reason to doubt, we saw what that NSFW image was, that's just called completely false. It gets called harmful and contradicts his apology of hurting minors, which just no. Okay, let me break this down for you. The apology was for letting minors have an easy way of seeing NSFW shit. Not for drawing porn of their characters or anything of that sort. Got it? And then, ironically enough, they cause a lot of harassment to Jasper by lying about him, then say that harassment won't be tolerated. Genuinely the funniest shit I've ever seen. Next up, the shit about the sexual content. Okay, let's get into it. However, there's way too much reiteration on the anger thread, so I'm gonna be skimming through this. Plus, it was already kinda stupid before. There's this general point that checking someone's birthday through an ID would have been enough, which, yeah, fair enough, but you could have seriously just told Jasper in private and he would have made that change. He is approachable like that. And when talking about consent, you are correct, but missing something. It's only applying to yourself. The
Well,
same
good
way
thing to
your
do is
parents
to
don't consent for you, you don't consent
study-
for your fictional characters.
study this
Plus, fair
motherfucker.
use exists for a reason. Of fucking course, Jasper should probably ask first
If
for
you
a
have
moral
to.
reason, but I don't consider that a violation of
There's nothing
consent
ever wrong
because
with
it wasn't
studying the
necessary in the
animation of
first
the base
place.
game itself.
Then there's this weird ass point of a
That's how you get
dark-skinned
better.
female character's purpose being to attract people into a cult, being an example of a racist stereotype. That would definitely be valid if the character wasn't a fucking doll brought to life. This is not an actual person and not an actual representation of people. It's a doll, an object. As a matter of fact, I personally
remember
just
talking to
consider it a
somebody about
lot
it.
more racist to
They told me
compare
it
an
wasn't
object
bad
that happens
that
to
I
look like
that
a
I
black
used
person
reference.
to an actual black person. But maybe that's just me.
And
Then there's
That's how you get
the
better.
horrible misdeed of Jasper's, which is giving proper trigger warnings for his account. And
Oh,
that somehow
shit.
gets criticized. Yes, calling the account 14 plus does invite minors, but if they stick around after reading suggestive themes right after, Jasper isn't really the one to blame. The fuck can he do? Then there's also another point. You might remember the Amor situation like a year ago. There was also this other person involved called Blue Skies TV. They got out of for some shit. Jasper was heavily conflicted as they were kinda close, but did dip when the weird shit dropped. Part of why he was so conflicted was that Blue even defended Jasper from that bullshit twitlonger back in March. Now it is kinda weird that Jasper reacted to Blue's expose with a send-off, but ultimately he still left Blue behind and no longer associates with him. So what's the issue? Some people are just conflicted, some people are just complex and not as cartoonishly one-dimensional as this docs offers. Alright, so let's talk about the curse thing again, because that's so much fun. I should realistically skip this has always been bullshit, but for the sake of honesty, let's do this. Oh, but it's not clearly stated to prevent. Fuck off, it's not glorified in any way either. And when they say glorify, they apparently mean focusing on just the abuse, regardless of how negatively it's presented. They also say that there is no supportive evidence claiming that this is an abuse story for the sake of coping. Oh, so now you can look into Jasper's head? I might just say that the escapism stuff is also completely stupid because it has nothing to do with abuse glorification. But seriously, something not being explicitly stated to be an event story doesn't make it abuse glorification, you pedantic twats. And the ableism section is no better. The point isn't, as Falskow says, that Curse can't be a hero due to being disabled. The point is that he no longer views himself as one because he can no longer run at his trademark sonic speed. For fuck's sake! And at that point on the super form is just pushing it. Seriously, this is just bitching about the fact that he's sitting down instead of levitating, which would realistically just tire him out more. Then there's more bitching about traumatized Mobians not being curable because, surprise surprise, trauma sticks with you for life, you can only learn to deal with it. And yes, children can also be traumatized, I know it's horrible, but it happens. Like seriously, this is still meant to be horror, why is the vagueness of what happened to Cream an issue? And can I just say that trauma blackening suggests that the trauma turns one into a monster is nonsense? Like, no the fuck it doesn't. Curse himself is the prime counterexample. He's the hero of the story, and still has a fuck ton of that trauma blackening. So wow guys, you really just leaked Jasper's personal trauma for the sake of, commenting on Tails? Literally, why did you share this? Seriously, this Tails part is so fucking irrelevant. Oh, no, wait, it actually proves that this isn't fucking abuse glorification, as it's shown to be rightly terrifying. What the fuck are you doing? Oh, boo-hoo, nothing but pain and misery. Yeah, it's a fucking melodrama, that's how this shit works. Then that dead naming part is also random. Is Sonic even Curse's dead name? The dead name was never confirmed, and since he's trans-mask, and the canon cis-male Sonic is called, well, Sonic, it only makes sense that his non-dead name, you know, his current one, is Sonic. Why the fuck do you think Sonic is his dead
1
name?
minute,
Wait, do you think Curse is his real name now? Who the fuck names themselves Curse? And yeah, the rest of this is just more repeated nonsense. We'll skip straight to the final chapter of the doc. Now, about that OSTD shit, again, I should just fucking skip it because of how shit the Twitlonger handled it. But let's see. It starts with a disclaimer that they aren't directly stating that the OSTD is faked, but that they are bringing attention to the inconsistencies in Jazz's behavior. That's legal talk for, we want you to think it's untrue without taking accountability if it isn't. Next, I'm just gonna repeat that the speed of the splits mean nothing, as Jasper's fuck ton of trauma would make this frequent splitting possible. Also, not only are fictive alters just generally a thing, which explain the sheer abundance of them in Jasper's system, but they're also not neatly separated, as they can build a personality of their own, explaining how Revived was formed out of basically nothing. Also, Jasper was a fucking co-owner of the Revived character, yet that was unmentioned for some reason. Again, another lie by omission. But seriously, OSTD and DID are not this fucking simple. Please don't spread such misinfo about either of those. Oh, and as far as I know, the fictive alter can very much know that they're fictive. There's also some weird point about inner communication, which is purely based on Jasper not seeing a therapist, as though that negates all possibility of said inner communication. Also, yes, Revived can learn from Spoiled, even if the latter isn't an alter. It's called source memories, and those can vary from the source. Then there's also some stupid point about that original X shit, which is just Revived's lore, so it makes sense. Like, what, does it need to stick to the original source or not? Make up your fucking mind. Then the part about Revived knowing about other X's is also stupid. It's just appealing to probability. Then there's some barely comprehensible critique of how Jasper acted during a panic attack, and then an alter taking over. I don't fucking know, it's just weird. Oh, here's an actually interesting part. People with OSDD only have one ANP. ANP is short for apparently normal part. It basically means the host alter. It still only changes likelihood though, it's nothing binary, but it certainly is interesting. And it's followed up by yet another interesting point. The protector's not helping during a mental breakdown. Now, we'd be able to check that if you didn't censor who took over in that moment, you twat. So we don't know if that's actually the case here. Then, holy shit, 3 good points in a row, the subsystem part. It's definitely something worth looking into, but every instance of OSDD is very different. You cannot judge one case by the metrics of another one. Okay, this next one's a doozy again. Basically, Jasper wants the exit community to be safe for DID or OSDD systems, which apparently puts minors who have it in danger by making their disorders known. Yeah, you're definitely not missing the point that Jasper is trying to change the community so that people with those disorders can come out and speak about it without being in fucking danger. That's literally what Jasper is trying to fight here. Then they eventually updated the chapter and spoke about shit like there only being one host now, woo. And they overanalyzed the phrase not on the market to the point of twisting it. I will definitely say though that not using the same phrase for the other child alter in the system is kinda weird. Then the focus shifts over to some new Sonic alter with its timing. Again, this point is stupid, that's just how the shit can sometimes work. But please do note that gatekept doesn't necessarily mean revived to gatekeeper now. It's just a term that's also used in other contexts. Honestly, overall, there are some valid and interesting points in this chapter, but it's blurred out by all this actual genuine misinformation. Christ. But at least we have the doc over now, I guess. As usual, we'll skip the statements, although they do show who worked on this fucking doc. Callum, a former owner of the Encyclopedia, yeah, the one Kenny runs now, Kenny, Tia, Noise, who is Falskow's fiance, and Falskow himself. This doc was a disgusting train wreck, just desperately trying to double down on already debunked accusations. Genuinely, all this proves is that someone has a vendetta against Jasper. Are there things to criticize Jasper for? Yes, but not like this. Also, for having Jasper and Upton in the title, this focused way too much on Jasper. I'll show you something you can actually knock Upton for when you're not framing him as a fucking pedophile. Let's get into the next chapter.
Remember before how Rayburst sent his hive mind after someone? Yeah, Gabriel got in contact with that guy. They started off with the Sonic.exe build that had a doc saying Ruby is innocent. After Surtez pointed it out, Rayburst and Upton sent their fans after him who told him to kill himself. Real mature. Surtez then reveals the tweets of how he himself didn't say Ruby is innocent, as well as some failed burn with the FNAF song. Only later did Rayburst admit that Surtez wasn't a Ruby supporter. He didn't apologize, didn't tell people to stop harassing him. That's it. Oh, and Upton stayed dead silent about it. But when Surtez asked Rayburst to tell people to stop, he said that he doesn't think Upton really cares that much. That sure paints him a good image, doesn't it? But it gets better. As Gabriel mentioned in his last video, Upton sexually harassed people. After EXE Burner's call out, he went inactive, then left completely a week or two after that. Before doing so, he made an audio to explain why and brought up how his friends got cancelled and at blows. Just a hunch, but he probably got scared of the skeletons in his own closet. Either way, this whole thing is hilarious and a tangent. Okay, let's get back to the point. Speaking of curse owners getting harassed, let's talk about Madman Halloween. GPT and teased did a dog calling out Madman and how terrible she is, but nothing came out of that. Or did it? We'll see eventually. What's weird though is Madman responding saying there's no proof when there's a screen cap of her admitting to shit right there. Either way, it would change nothing about how the community mistreated her. Let's go over 4 cases in particular. 1. After the EXE burner callout, Avery gave ownership of Sonic.exe Anniversary Edition to Madman. Unfortunately, GameReel didn't find out about that in time, so we didn't really catch any actual proof of abuse, but the QRTs, along with the other situations, speaks for
Shit.
itself. 2. Rain is the director of EX Eternal and at one point in time had to share that spot with Madman. Apparently she forced herself into that position, and then composer Churdney Gurney joined the team, didn't like another member, so Reina gave him permission to kick the guy out. After getting called out, Reina framed Madman for it, including faking a screenshot of giving Churdney permission. She apologized not too long after, but was really vague about it. Apparently, this is also a part of her sending porn to minors, but we got nothing about that here.
Whoa.
Madman later made an unnecessarily long response, which can
Whoa,
be summed up
hell
with
no.
making her suicidal, as well as not wanting to work with Reina anymore, but still wishing her the best. Three. To start, Madman shared a now scrapped idea of adding a fat fetish version of Faker to EX Eternal. She got harassed to hell and back for it. This led her to becoming suicidal along with openly admitting to planning on overdosing. Then, KG Beppis steps in and says some stupid shit. He deleted most of it, but we at least have one screen cap. Overall, he just reacts with no empathy whatsoever, which actually lets people realize how much of a piece of shit he can be. Soon enough, KG drops a 100% real, totally genuine apology. Eventually, Madman gets better again, with KG apparently helping out. As expected, people immediately act like they're cool with him again. Because who cares that he's a fucking psychopath, willing to even start shit like this to begin with? Oh, and this isn't just a one-time thing either. KG also used VIDS' death as an excuse to shit on Revy. What the actual fuck is wrong
Oh,
with you?
fuck.
4. Before we start this one, we'll need some context. Back in October, Band Buds got cancelled for racism. When all that happened was just
Oh,
that
I remember
he
that.
used the N-word, soft A no less. Even then, it was handled privately months ago. Regardless, he took full accountability and still got cancelled, taking Lullaby version 2 with him in the process. Eventually, Madman clowned on someone for calling Ben Buds racist. After a certain Com Gaming QRT, she got harassed yet another time. Seriously, the abuse was insane. Like, there was this meme that implied Madman was anti-BLM. It got to the point that not even an explanation of any kind would work. But instead, she got accused of racism and transphobia left and right. Admittedly,
Isn't she
she
trans
did have a
herself?
point. It did look like people wanted her dead. But if there's one good thing from this, it's the rare moment of KG Brothers actually acting like a sane human being. There's more about Madman to mention, but let's talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the guy who was indirectly responsible for that last situation I mentioned.
Okay, so before I say anything on Calm, I think it's important to address my apology. Yes, it still stands. I made a hasty assumption based on KG and Calm confirming, in quotes, the docs last time. However, I have since further investigated and found out some deeper shit. I'm not saying that he isn't homeless though, as that's pretty hard to prove, but I am saying that the way he handles the situation deserves criticism. Okay, so this may be a minor point, but I still think it's worth discussing. What exactly is homelessness? When you hear the word, you might think of someone living on the streets, for example. Hell, the Merriam-Webster definition of homeless is having no home or permanent place of residence. But Com isn't that. He did state that he lives in hotels, and that doesn't necessarily make him saying that he's homeless a lie, but it can make people think that he's in a worse situation than he truly is, which might in turn make them donate more. Like, for fuck's sake, he got like $3,000 through just Avery's old Ko-Fi for him, and who knows about all the other platforms through which people donate to him. Now, of course, I'm not trying to say that Com could not be in a bad financial situation, but this can definitely be seen as him exaggerating his circumstances. Also, there's a few questionable terms he uses at times, you know, like house or rent, even though neither apply to him. And his excuse honestly still leaves a lot to be desired, but that's neither here nor there. Now, if I were to say what the best thing to come out of my mistake in the last video was, it would be that more people question Com, leading to him finally giving us the timeline of events that led to him being homeless. Through it, he also finally explained some questions we had. For example, how he had internet, why he got evicted in the first place, why his uncle is in jail, etc, etc. So, as the guy who made the claim against him, I think it's only fair to show how consistent this timeline is with how he acted throughout the year. So let's start with late January. First of all, his house catches on fire, then he and his family stays in hotels during the repairs, but the mom didn't pay everything correctly, so they were evicted. Now, he did talk about being evicted on January 29th and 31st, but a house fire was never mentioned, and neither was his mom not paying anything properly. But okay, whatever, he was evicted, we know that part. Let's talk about what happens afterwards. In the first months, plural, he is in a hotel with public Wi-Fi. He eventually finds out that his mother was selling her body, whatever that means, and he was therefore done with
Ooh.
her. That was never mentioned before. Then his uncle gets out of jail, which we know happened on March 13th or earlier. Then, after that falling out with his mom, which was presumably in March, he eventually started living in a hotel with his uncle. That was at least during April 16th, but most realistically also before and after. He then eventually got a Moxie hotspot, which explains his constant internet usage. That was never mentioned before. He also worked a job at KFC with his uncle and said uncle's girlfriend, I think. He never mentioned a job or work of any kind, so yeah. Then, and this is really weird, the uncle and the GF argue, the GF runs against the wall, she slams into the wall after being warned, and then, weeks later, used that against the uncle. And then he went to prison. Okay, so according to Com's tweets, the uncle went to prison around June 22nd, so yeah, realistic time frame I guess. But the reason behind the uncle being in prison was generally never mentioned, and I'm gonna be honest, that story sounds like bullshit. If the girlfriend had actually run against the wall so fucking quickly that she was still injured enough weeks later so that the uncle could go to prison for it, then she must have gone fast enough to make Sonic the Hedgehog blush. Also, you're trying to tell me that none of the people that were there ever testified in the favor of your uncle? Even though they straight up warned her to not run into that fucking wall? Seriously, Com? Then, okay, he starts living alone, and the cops just let him, for some reason. And he thinks that he got doxxed through a Steak and Shake Wi-Fi. Okay, no, this is not how any of this works.
Whoa,
and I'll get to
what?
why in a second, okay? Just really quick about everything that happened after the dox. The mod died, and now he has to deal with everything. Since there's nothing to prove or disprove here, let's just get to the docs already. I'm gonna have to preface this by saying that I found the docs, the exact address and everything surrounding it. No, I will not share it. Don't even ask. However, I will roughly describe it. It was an address set in a rich looking neighborhood without either a hotel or a Steak and Shake close by. Keep this in mind, okay? The doxed address cannot in any way fit to the story he's telling. Okay. When he was eventually called out, he had a massive thread talking about why he doesn't fake his situation. And also I just want to say, no, he never said he wasn't homeless. Don't spread misinformation like that. However, he does get quite weird when talking about the dogs. After my video, he claimed to have never seen it, yet for some reason still heavily panicked when he first found out about it. Why would a homeless person be worried about being dogs? But whatever. It can just be a general panic, you know, it is something frightening. Then he says that doxing is also IP, but it was a specific address that got doxed, and you can't get that through IP. Like, it gets even weirder when he says that it's through public Wi-Fi. As a quick reminder, the IP address gives you a rough geolocation at most. You can only get an address through the internet if the person you're doxing gives it away themselves. Plus, the IP address for public fucking Wi-Fi can't connect to a personal address in any fucking way. So tell me, Calm, how the fuck does all this make sense together? Oh, and are we ever gonna talk about his 200 euro keyboard? Straight up, he once posted a video of himself vibing to some song playing on his laptop while also having a separate keyboard connected to the laptop, and someone confirmed for me that it was 200 fucking euros, also roughly around $200. Jesus fucking Christ. There's perfectly fine, cheap keyboards that also have RGB lighting. Why the fuck does he have this expensive one? Oh, and don't even say he had it before, because then why not sell it for money? His laptop already has a fucking keyboard. Still, I do want to say that this is not conclusive and that people still have a right to defend him in this. Yes, even Rightburst, although Calm definitely fucking hates him. That's not even a joke, I can prove that later.
Oh shit.
Okay, this wasn't originally part of the script, but I'm gonna bring it up here because people would likely mention it if I don't. It turns out that after Avery got cancelled thanks to the Exaburner situation, they kinda left without paying Calm all of his donated money. But that situation has been resolved, so hey, that's great. So, all in all, is Calm faking homelessness? I don't know. It's definitely possible considering all these different question marks here, and yes, individually they would be unimportant, but together it's kind of a death by a thousand paper cut scenario. But to be completely honest, Calm is the type of guy who shares private info easily. For example, his uncle being trans. This is not a need to know basis, but an I overshare very easily basis. So why the fuck is basic shit like the fire, his hotspot, or his job never mentioned? This makes him look as though he made basic plot points up in January or before that, and now tries to cover up the plot holes he accidentally created. However, this is just speculation. Do not come to hasty conclusions because of this, and do not fucking harass him because of this. Okay.
Nobody
Now
is
the next chapter is about a person that Calm tried and failed to defend despite how fucked up they are. Let's talk about Jackie.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna get a bit loud in some parts, so strap in and turn down your volume some. So, Gabriel already mentioned before
Gotta
that
fucking
Jackie
load in
made a
Adobe
build
again.
that shows your IP address. There's even this
Oh, I
little
remember
chat
that.
that proves she did it. Apparently it happened right before that, but the dates are missing, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. That's not the focus though. Let's talk about something
God
back in
damn.
August. Remember the Encore icons that were just doodled over? Yeah, Jackie admitted herself to doing that. Made them so raw my ass. After Game Reel found out, he informed a large Lenny who called her out on it soon after. She made a definitely
I
real
remember Large Lenny.
apology, downplayed Divide's role in making the icons, and then pulled attention from herself, which is disingenuous as fuck. Not too long after, she made a thread on Twitter mentioning them being placeholders, calls the Divide art misinfo, but also dug around and saying Divide didn't make them at all, which all debatably makes it worse. Oh, and she also linked a thread Com made. Let's dissect that. Out of nowhere, you say Scorch made all free plate art just to disprove the
Course.
claim. You also QRT'd something that attempts to prove Divide's part in Triple Trouble. You also say there's nothing else he worked on, but it's hard to believe you when you've lied about it before this. When Revi gets brought up, you say that not everything your goddess says is 100% true. If anything, she's your guardian angel since she forced Gameriel to apologize to you. The fact that both you and Jackie would downplay a dead man's involvement in something just to clear your own names is the most foul shit I've seen in this community. It's bad enough that his work got pissed on, but this is just horrid. But yeah, of course Com would disrespect the dead, he disrespected the living too. But as usual, we'll get to that later though. But for now, let's go over how Jackie made a thread not addressing the drama. I say that with heavy air quotes, you'll see why. Thankfully though, GameReel got screenshots with the name Jackie.exe. First up is acknowledging the existence of some videos addressing the incidents in this community. This would apply to GameReel, but she brings up misgendering her and showing her Twitter and Discord accounts, neither of which GameReel has done himself. She then says she wants to dissociate with the drama. It's like she knows she fucked up and doesn't want to face it directly. To combat this, she attempts to get rid of the name Jackie.exe, which I shall follow, by now calling her Jackass instead. Oh, and she then discloses that she still works on the ones she did before the thread happened. So yeah, only 2 tweets don't address any kind of drama. That was a big fat lie. In short, Jackass is a huge scumbag. Now that that's over with, let's just go over some miscellaneous stuff.
Hey, remember Marstar Bro, the former composer and director for Versus Sonic.exe? You know, the arrogant little shit that harasses fans. Well, instead of apologizing for that, he just ran off of Twitter. But, and this is the funny part, he was still fucking there, as when some troll tagged him and Egg on Twitter, he immediately blocked Egg. I don't know what to say, it's just funny. Alright, Kenny, bald that he is, once had a random breakdown on Twitter, asking if he matters. That led to a lot of cocksucking from Anorak, Indeed, who called him a fucking Faber figure, Uptaunt, Avery, Jasper, and probably other big people I missed. Someone who didn't know him even said that he must matter because many people like him, which is pretty funny. But seriously, do not blindly follow this manchild who will destroy livelihoods over petty personal grudges. He didn't only try to do this to Jasper. Honestly though, this isn't all that relevant, I just added this bit for fun. However, eventually, he did leave the platform, was still a dickhead to someone we'll get back to later, and then deleted his account. Just a month later, the bald bitch came back as he is insanely addicted to Twitter.
Also,
Okay,
I'm
I
back,
think it's time
guys.
that we go back to his doc for a
Gonna
second,
draw
as it
some
was made during this absence, and
Sonic.
the third part is all about that. It's really just cheap pulling at the heartstrings. He does say that he hopes people can forgive him, but that's real fucking vague. Honestly, it's just frustrating how annoyingly vague everyone likes to be in this community. He says that he is actually afraid to return due to his mutuals all turning out to be horrible, and it's definitely not because he fears people like me who call him out on his bullshit. They do not deserve my words after all I did for them, like actively trying to ruin Jasper's life? Fuck you, Kenny, just fuck you. But luckily I can show you something positive regarding Kenny. Now, very recently, Wells, a composer you might know from the convo he had with Upton, talked directly with Kenny. On Kenny's server, Wells tricked him into accepting his friend request and going into DMs. Here's some interesting stuff to note from those DMs. Kenny, for some reason, genuinely hates Revy, which is fucking random considering how ambivalent he acted to Justify. He then, months later, still complains about the Toastify stream. Get over it, you're an adult man. And apparently Revy going into VC with Toastify proves that she only cares about publicity and not the truth. Yeah, definitely can't be because she actually wants to talk to him directly and clear shit up, or, you know, let him ask questions, something you refuse to let people do. But she's just such a rotten person. Yeah, shut the fuck up, Kenny. Let's just make it a hashtag at this point. Shut the fuck up, Kenny. Then there's just the typical boring bullshit of someone refusing to separate the art from the artist. Afterwards, when Wells wanted to get a link to Toastify's stream, Kenny said it provides really negative feelings for him. Probably because he doesn't want to be reminded of how fucking childish he was. Wells then talks about the guy who got Revy into that stream, you know who it was in a second, and Kenny is upset with both them and Revy. Why am I not surprised, Kenny? Oh, and also, him saying I'm firm on my stance about her and it won't change, that just shows he fell into the sunk cost fallacy. Don't fall to a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to, you know, life-ruining accusations. Just don't. It makes you look like a moron. Then, when Upton is mentioned, Kenny says they're all bad, and mentions multiple people, even Jasper, who he himself tried to ruin. Genuinely go fuck yourself, Kenny. You don't even know how much stress you caused me with just that one fucking chapter. Eventually, Wells revealed that he is the one who got Revy into the VC, so Kenny fucking blocks him. This is just peak boldness for Kenny. Also, again, just a small thing that annoys me. His usage of tone indicators is like borderline offensive to me. The overusage of /gen makes my fucking blood boil, and I hate how he makes a genuinely useful tool for online communication look like a cheap gimmick. Thank you, Kenny.
Remember MarioBot who Gabriel mentioned a while back to show how hypocritical this community is? Yeah, he's back now. He just showed up after getting cancelled. There was no major backlash or anything. Hell, even Rightburst openly supported him after he came back. It's like no one cares how much of a piece of shit he is. In
God
fact,
damn.
none of you cunts give a flying fuck about who you cancel, do you? This next one's not that big, so let's just get it over with.
A lot of
First
people
things
give
first,
a fuck.
Kubikorg was exposed, but EXE Burner focuses on her being almost 18. No, she was 17, her partner was 16. Don't do this. The two also ERP'd, and she made some comments that were apparently without consent, but her partner did not make it clear that they didn't consent. You can't blame Kubi for not knowing. What you can blame Kubi for, though, is pestering her partner to make CP. Yes, she did
Whoa.
that. Oh, and apparently there's more manipulation, but that can't be confirmed. So while most of the thread isn't that bad, the CP part is actually a flag more red than the USSR flag. Oh, and GPT Anon came back to call out Adam McCummins again, as well as pointing out how he close sources his shit and is a major dickhead. While neither of these are worth canceling him over, he does use the Revy disaster as an excuse to do so. Close sourcing your shit in the Friend and Funkin community, which is all about being as open source as it can be, is just all around uncool, greedy, and it defeats the purpose. Due to how this next part is as separate from everything as it is, I'll just go over the important part. The voice actor Glitchy Will cheated on his partner with Jasper, of all people. What makes it weirder is that his partner was 15 when he's 18, yet he cheated, so it's just really
Whoa.
confusing. That's all I'll say on this, just bringing it up if it's ever important again.
Okay, this is a situation I was way too vague about last time, so let me explain it properly. Remember how Mario Bot said just say you wish you were groomed by Revy? Yeah, that was in response to Robo, a then 14-year-old, releasing a dog calling out the exedevs and saying that Revy isn't a pedo. Not even defending her actions, just saying she isn't a pedo. If you recall the DMs with Comment Avery, those were part of this dog. She collected all these. Part of that dog was a situation where Nebula, a known fucking leaker, leaking some shit, and then her and Avery trying to frame Robo for that. When Robo eventually exposed Nebula for being the leaker, they lied about it being a fake account, but that's bullshit too. Honestly, Robo got dealt a way too shit hand in general.
Ow.
Allow me to
I
digress
don't
for a
like where
second.
this dropped off.
Okay, the specific situation is pretty fucking dark, so if you decide that you want to look further into it through my evidence folder, I say you should be warned at least that it's not going to be pretty reading through all that. So, what exactly happened? A few sociopaths decided to dox Robo and threaten her mother's life. The reason?
Whoa.
Some bullshit claims of her sending porn to minors when that isn't the case, and other fake or exaggerated claims. This led to a serious mental health spiral where it looked really fucking bad for her, but she's better now, thank God. I can't tell you how fucking stressed I was. But here's a weird thing. Madman decided to claim that it was the Versus Bench Tales devs who doxed her, which is just false, as they themselves have said. And for context as to why she made up that bullshit claim, it's that Bench Tales first called Madman out, and now she is just fucking salty. Actually, now that I think about it, let's talk about Madman's wrongdoings for a bit. Yes, this subchapter was actually a clever segue. Get fucked. I believe that for the start of this chapter at least, we need to talk about everything that happened on November 21st, just for context. Now strap in because this next bit might be the last time I ever talk about Madman Halloween positively in any way.
Oh,
All this started with
shit.
her making a thread announcing her departure from Exeternal, a mod she herself started. The team was generally unpleasant, but the worst was still Reyna. For real, she didn't just actively treat Madman like shit, Reyna apparently even tried to cancel her for leaking her own mod. Something she'd have every right to if it's her own work, but we'll get to the leaking in a second. Yet despite how disgusting she acts, and keep in mind, she faked a fucking screen cap to frame Madman, she was always accepted back by the team. Then there's Noitroa, another piece of shit that when Madman came out as trans in the dev server, deleted that message and spouted some borderline transphobic bullshit in DMs. It had interesting lines like, some felt uncomfortable, it's not Madman's fault that people have internalized transphobia, or not about minors, like, bro, trans kids having a trans role model would be fucking great for them, what the fuck do you mean? But for real though, there's nothing about trans people that's bad for kids to see. That's just a transphobic lie. Hey, Gamer back for yet another small correction. Like yesterday, I got in contact with Neutroa and he gave me a small statement regarding this whole situation and showed me a public statement he made. Basically, he didn't intend to come off as transphobic, it was just a moment where his emotions got to him, and he is genuinely sorry for it. Now that doesn't really change my argument as I didn't consider him to be transphobic either way, but I think that it's only fair to share this. Ironically enough, Madman then even confirms that there were trans minors in the server. Then Raina defends Neutroa and says that they actually made a good point and aren't transphobic. No Raina, that's just internalized transphobia. Nothing more, nothing less. After a couple of arguments, Madman snapped and wanted to leak and kill X-Eternal. Wait, what?
What?
Okay, no. Keep this readiness to leak something in mind for later.
Holy fuck.
Now the whole situation with Neutroa is just settled and it's kinda awkward, but apparently Madman is still getting actively villainized in the server. She requests her work to be removed from the project and that's about it.
Wow.
Okay, this next part is where the real fun begins. Robo posted some proof of Madman trying to manipulate someone into taking Faker from Revy, then wanting to fake screen caps for it using her knowledge of Rev being suicidal from manipulation, then just generally being two-faced about her and admitting to leaking and destroying 3.0. Keep in mind, these aren't random claims, these are her own fucking words. Oh, and apparently she said the N-word in the call. Honestly, that's a minor thing in my eyes. Now, for some extra evidence, I'll leak my own chat with her. Dick move, I know, but I don't really care. Now, I was told that she wanted to talk to Rev in order to discuss some personal situation. I sent her a burner account Rev made. It apparently went so well that she gave Madman her main at the time. Here's the weird thing. The personal situation was Revy yelling, "I have a bomb" on a call, which Madman even agrees was funny. Then why the fuck bother discussing it? Now, the trust Revy shows in giving Madman her main is pretty big here, making it very possible that she told Madman that she was suicidal. This is not a confirmation though, this is just, something that makes it reasonable to assume that that could be the case. Then, Madman's reaction to the callout was very weird. First of all, there's the old identity thing. She says on a Twitter account, still called Madman Halloween, with nothing making the new name clear. Then there's also that never knowing that Revy was suicidal thing. And yeah, this truly can't be easily proven. But it's definitely a reasonable assumption. Still, I will give this one to Madman. But I will not give her the bench tail shit. Don't pull other beefs into this to hide. Then there's also her saying that people should stop saying that she leaked 3.0. But Robo only said bah. You said that you leaked it, Madman. Nobody else. Next up, that N-word bullshit. I don't really care too much about this because one word does not equal racism. But shit you do high is still part of your subconscious. Then in the next few... Wait, why the fuck did you even ask Revy for Faker? I got you in contact just for the personal shit. Damn, you really just went behind my back like that, huh? But as if God gives me a sign that I should calm down, Madman just drops the objectively funniest line I have ever read in the creation of this video. Racism also runs throughout my family. Great stuff, great stuff. Then later on, the random claim that Robo is the bench tails dev is only supported by DMs of them speaking about each other.
2 hours and 3 minutes.
Robo then responds with yet another call out. There's no shit like an old message of Madman saying that she doesn't drink or take drugs, and proof that she actively deleted messages. Robo also responds to Madman's statements that it's fucked she recorded a private call with the statement that she, Madman, apparently said in the VC that she jacked off to Robo's Sona, so she recorded everything from then on to make sure to have evidence. Christ. Anywho, Madman then also slanders Robo by saying that she's on Reina's side. Where the fuck does this come from? And immediately goes into suicide mode again. Then gives away everything she owns on the internet. She also later made a Twitter space where she wrote a fucking suicide note. Robo then came in to cheer her up, but later found out that it was just bait. Now, that pissed her off immensely, as she herself attempted to kill herself just days before this. It was not a fun time for her. Like I said, that dox and everything around it fucked her up. Now, as a quick side note, I just want to say that Madman actually suicide baiting does not negate what KG or others did before. He couldn't know for sure and still knowingly make that assumption, which is still disgusting. That's the same with Reina and everyone else who mistreated this cunt. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you treat a shit person like shit, you're also a shit person. Nobody cares about your shitty justification. Then, just hours later, Madman came back complaining about how Robo recorded a private call, called her a bench tails dev, and then said that she, Madman, didn't know Revy was suicidal. Now, about that private call recording, your GF's got nothing to worry about. I've seen Russian dashcam videos with higher bit rates. But then she also does some schizoran about being happy to see Eternal burn and making up random bullshit to explain why Robo called her out. Then she deactivated again. Then she came back yet again, now claiming that Robo framed her. With her own fucking words? But this is all she did, right? This has to be it. Wait, it's not? What do you mean it's not? Yeah, remember the stock GPT anon teased? You know, the one that Madman then blindly denied and hid from her audience? That shit got cancelled because she apparently bribed someone who worked on it. But yeah, I got my hands on some of the evidence. Let me share that shit. Of course, number one, she helped make Sling Mingo, a notorious leaker, into who he is now, according to her own words. There's also then proof that she was in contact with Revy to get her hands on Faker. And you know, if you abuse my trust like that, at least get my fucking name right after I correct you on it. Then there's also a lot more shit regarding her being a leaker, you know, like admitting to being in the leaking scene, her leaking a lot of shit, presumably Eternal, her leaking even more shit, potentially the original 3.0, her leaking Triple Trouble Encore with some of the original parts from 3.0. So yeah, this is what I got, who knows if there's more. Oh wait, there is more? Okay, this has been added very late to my script. This is literally just days after it happened, and I added it on the same day of this recording. So let's get into it. Instead of that promise doc to show how she was slandered by Robo, we got a mega thread of her defending herself. So let's just do this. Racism and pedo claims are cleared up first. I never thought she was either, but that's besides the point. Now here, once again, we get some funny quotes. There's apparently no proof of her jacking off to Robosona, which is true, although we'll get to something quite interesting in a second.
Oh no.
Then she also apologizes for the N-word, good on her. Afterwards, she provides proof of her not beating it to Robosona. What the fuck, this is just screen caps of her saying, nah, this ain't it, chief. Why the fuck should I trust the words of a known manipulator? But then, eventually, FQ, if you pronounce their name like that, a friend of Robo's, confirmed it to be BS in DMs of Madman and supposedly cleared it up. That turned out to be a lie in order to get Madman to fuck off. Okay, back to the Mega Friend. She clarifies that she didn't leak 3.0, but Crybit supposedly did. Wow, this adult is seriously trying to throw hands with a fucking 14-year-old now, huh?
14-year-old?
This leads to yet another thread because nobody in this community knows how to be concise. She then shows that Crybit leaked shit, which, okay, yeah, cool, but that doesn't disprove you leaking shit, and Robo's still quote-unquote working with him. Nah mate, they're just friends, not fucking co-workers. What the hell are you saying?
Something you wouldn't understand since you don't have any friends.
She then calls Robo's reason for excusing Crybit saying the N-word poor, but an edgy teenager and a grown adult aren't comparable. Wait, are you trying to say that you're just as childish as a teenager? But then she still confirms that she leaked shit, so what's the fucking point here? Okay, whatever. She talks further about the racism shit and drops yet another funny line. No, racism doesn't run through my veins. Good on ya. But then she does explain the weird racism runs in my family comment. It was supposedly about her growing up with toxic people that just kinda instilled that in her. Like you're the only one, that isn't a fucking excuse! If everyone with racist parents turned out to also be a racist, there would only be racists on Earth right now. And then there's just more bitching about how Robo should not have recorded a private call. You should not have been such a fucking creep. Back to the Mega Threat. Now,
Jesus
on Revy,
Christ,
she just
motherfucker,
says
scared
that
the
it's
fuck
not
out of me.
true, and then, for some reason, shows that it was Robo who she tried to manipulate. You realize this makes her look better, right? Next, there's some claim that Robo deleted important context, no proof is given, while Robo literally proved that MMH did the same. Then Madman's trying to get some fucking brownie points by showing that she's willing to get in contact with Revy. What, so you can try to manipulate her too? Why would you need to talk to her? All you need to actually do is show the screen caps of your convo with her. Although considering your past, I still wouldn't trust that shit as you could easily delete some messages. Luckily, someone was insistent enough to not let Madman get anywhere near Revy. Madman then tries to write her fucking manipulation as very poor persuasion off. No, okay, no, fuck off. You try and fail to manipulate people more than you fucking breathe. Don't think any of us are dumb enough to fall for that shit. Then she acts like depressed people are incapable of suicide baiting, and never addresses the supposed suicide baiting motive, which, may I remind you, was her trying to get on people's good sides after Robo's call out. Then, speaking of, if all this was true, why did you make that fucking suicide note instead of continuing to dig your fucking grave like this? Like, why did you jump from defending yourself to suicidal to defending yourself again? You didn't even choose how you defend yourself. It's still just your explanations with barely any evidence behind it. I'm sorry, but that just reeks of someone trying to change plans mid-battle and then realizing it's not working. But at least she proves that she takes drugs. That's something, I guess. Little does she know that proving she's a fucking liar doesn't help her case. Okay, this next one's actually interesting. Madman shows how Robo sends porn of her character to someone else, but then literally cuts out the important context. Like, this shit is literally what she's accusing Robo of. What the fuck, Madman? What are you trying to do here? And then she takes her full leave from Twitter and comes back hours later. Why, you might ask? Simple. Robo called her out again, and she talks about clearing up and disproving more shit. You failed to do so before. This is fucking embarrassing, Madman. She then even reacts to the call out by saying, "Funny you didn't acknowledge my points. I just did, and they don't hold up in the slightest. I do not blame her on getting out more evidence instead of that." So, then, let's talk about that newest call out. Robo is actually being concise and just brings up the claims into evidence. Good on her. Madman uploaded porn of Robo's Sona to Rule 34, making her fapping to it a lot more likely. She also shows how Madman hid context behind why Robo sent that shit to her friend. She also, supposedly, kept touching her dick in a call with Neutrua. And finally, Robo ends that call out by showing how Madman broke down over how she kept leaking shit. Keep in mind, that claim was always based on her own words, and her even talking about some plan or vision with External, which sounds just a little weird in context, but maybe that's just me. So, speaking of her vision for External, what's up with it now? Okay, even after everything that Madman said, Neutrua says it's not cancelled, Raina said it wasn't cancelled but then deleted that tweet. For some reason people left the mod and even said that Mistful Crimson Morning, a notorious train wreck, had better development, which is hilarious. So yeah, if it goes out on a whimper, I'm not surprised. Now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revive, wait, we're not done? Okay, one last update. Neutrua added Madman to a blacklist on the External server. There's a fuck ton of valid claims, but it's still hilarious. Now apparently, that piece of shit Madman wanted to manipulate Neutrua when he's mentally down to take over the mod again. By the way, you might have noticed this in Robo's final callout. I didn't mention it there because it was always supposed to be mentioned here. Thanks, Robo. You really made this complicated. Also, apparently, this is just hearsay, but it could realistically be true. Madman supposedly leaked even more mods that we do not know of.
Oh my god.
Okay, now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revivals, it's time we talk about Rerun.
Someone exposed the public server for Sonic.exe Rerun since the mods tolerated NSFW but also allowed minors in. Like, the server was 14 plus and there was a no NSFW rule, yet there was straight up pornography whilst mods were in the chat. Someone named hackcode.exe posted the majority of it and never got banned for it. Hell, Nayu herself posted a video of someone twerking. Just wanted to mention this. People think this all made Shut Up JoJo Black Rerun devs, but from what we know, that isn't the case. Gamereal talked to Nayu about this whole thing. She didn't see the thread, but she still hates the server herself. The video she sent was of a random person twerking, but that doesn't change the fact that she sent it. Sometime after, she seemingly deleted the server. Gamereal did not get permission to share this, but you'll see in a bit why neither of us care. Remember someone named Indeed? Yeah, he got thrown out of Rerun because he was given nothing to do. Apparently he joined because Rightburst offered him, who then came by to sort it out. Okay. One other person said it was a misunderstanding, another compared it to the original EXE team and how it had over 60 members. He was brought back in and deleted the tweet since people were obviously mad with the Rerun team. But then it happened again. A lot of shit was started for no reason, which made people feel unwelcome. Some even got thrown out just because the server was too big. Also, it's apparently run by screwing around. Clearly, no EXE mod is run well. Mudo claims this was a misunderstanding, but this is just a pattern by now. Also, one more thing. The former voice actor for Stranger, the literal face of the mod, popped a fucking blood vessel and the directors did not give a shit. I don't know all of the directors, but I know for sure
Wow.
Mayu and Rightburst are. Now back to how I said neither I nor GameReel care about Nayu's permission. Some random dumbass on DeviantArt called GameReel a pedo for no reason whatsoever. When that got shared and rightfully ridiculed on Twitter, Nayu responded with her
Bag.
personal DMs with GameReel about how he's older than her, saying that he's kinda weird. Now, is GameReel weird? Of course he is. But this context feels like you're trying to paint him as a pedophile, which is disgusting in its own right. Even if that wasn't the intention, you know it could have happened, why put it out there? Either way, leaking DMs for no reason is just stupid. Even if GameReel's reason was penniness, at least he actually had a reason. Luckily, Nayu got called out on it, but then changed the subject to Rightburst for some reason. Oh, and speaking of which...
Okay, Rightburst, let's do this. To be clear, right from the get-go, I will not harp on him too much. Like I said before, kid's been through way too fucking much. Remember, people harassed him because he thought he led the Revi slander, something I already proved wasn't true. This is just me neutrally criticizing his actions. Now, I already do not condone harassment towards anyone I criticize, but I will be explicitly clear with him. Do not fucking harass Rightburst. If you do, you're no better than False Cow, Kubikork, or Kenny. But I will allow myself some lighthearted jabs. Those are kind of necessary, aren't they? Now, let's get into it. Okay, let's start by me proving my hypotheses from the last video. Nayu confirmed him joining Rerun back in June. Avery confirmed he was kicked twice. And this last one is not a claim, but him saying directing is hard is pretty funny considering he was literally kicked twice and lost the director position and ownership of the mod to Calm. I told you there would be some jabs.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this next sounds pretty interesting. When Revi left the internet, he confirmed that she is not a pedo. Now, when him calling her one in the Parallax talk is brought up, he didn't react, as far as I know. And to be clear, he was still openly spiteful towards her when she was called out. So take that how you will. Next, GPT Anon strikes again? Apparently Rightburst lied about not being in contact with Jesterfrog. I don't know, this evidence seems pretty flimsy. I just wanted to bring this up for completionist's sake, but I do not buy this one, like at all. Okay, here we go. Remember that Satanos and Sally Alt voice reel I mentioned back in the False Cow chapter? Rightburst also reacted, but he only threatened that actions will be taken instead of actually striking me. Yippee! He then says that it ain't right, even as a joke. People on the internet will leave anything they see. Yeah, Revi can confirm that.
You fool. Thanks for finally saying my name. You never did in regards to my original criticism, did you?
Yeah, funny. Gag. Over. But seriously, you guys were ready to mention Lenny, but not me, so me forcing a reaction somehow actually worked. Is it because you guys can talk shit about him because he's a leaker, or rather shares leaks, and my image is squeaky clean? But besides, for real now, who would want to steal a character made out of spite? Okay, this one's getting a bit mean, isn't it? I'm sorry, it's really not my intention. Okay, so after this whole situation, I joined a server to see what went on in there. And it was dead fucking silent, so me and some others just talked. As a joke, I added him and asked about Satanos, then got banned while I was sleeping once he was online. Now here's the weird thing, when someone pointed out that it was me, Rightburst thanked them, and then said something about raids for some reason. And the same day he made a tweet about being angry for no reason, which is probably a coincidence, but still, very funny. Now speaking of servers, in a completely different one, my video was shared and people talked about Rightburst as a reaction to it. Apparently he is a douche and people like Calm and Simply EJ just avoid him as a subject. Way to be fucking honest with someone, guys. Seriously, Rightburst is willing to publicly defend you and you just go behind his back like that. Don't pull this petty shit. Just say you don't like him and be done with it.
God.
Jesus, this is childish. Alright, let's get back to the dementia shit mentioned in the Jesterfrog chapter. When Exaburner called Rightburst out, Muto came in to quote-unquote explain the dementia shit. Apparently, Rightburst just mistook forgetfulness and dementia. That's not a mistake that should just happen like that. Also, forgetfulness ain't that big a deal. I myself am insanely forgetful, yet don't over-dramatize it. Oh, and by the way, once Rightburst's apology came out, Muto talked about everyone dogpiling on him without hearing him out. And that's kinda difficult when he prefers to be vague and not speak about his own side of things. Now, once someone calls Muto's defending of the dementia shit out by showing that people don't get regular dementia before their 30s, Muto responds with a website on childhood dementia, but misses the part where it says that the brain gradually degrades when it has the condition, meaning a 16-year-old with it should not be able to, for example, direct multiple mods. Once that is pointed out, Muto just says it can range from months to decades, which, yes, it can, but it starts early. Oh, and then he just has a random ass rant about the other person using a throwaway.
Oh my god.
What the fuck? And when he was asked for a better argument because the current one is kinda shit, Muto shows symptoms of ARBD, then pretending it has something to do with teenage dementia, even though it's a completely different disorder. Now, in case you're unaware, ARBD does not mean a Rightburst dick rider, even though that would fit to Muto. It's alcohol-related brain damage, sometimes also called wet brain syndrome. It's also only caused by alcohol, and teenagers shouldn't have it in general. And if a teen has ARBD and dementia, the prior caused the latter, not the other way around. Now, there's 4 options left based on what Muto is saying. 1. RB has insanely early normal dementia. 2. RB has childhood dementia and will kick the bucket in a couple of years. 3. RB has an insanely rare, almost safe version of childhood dementia. Or 4. God forbid, RB doesn't have dementia. Now, when I made a pretty fucking angry community post about it, Muto was very butthurt over it, and it showed. No, wait, dude, I called you a cocksucker, not a dick rider. I'm not that unoriginal in my shit. Okay, now, back to Rightburst. Let's wrap this chapter up with the final few points. Okay, for some context on this one. Uni was depressed to the point of being suicidal. Then someone quote retweeted that with saying, slow your roll. And Rightburst reacted with, this goofy ass MF brah. Needless to say, he got massive backlash and all hell broke loose on Twitter that day. Let's try to summarize this. First, he tried to play it off by saying, do y'all do any sports, but that was immediately called out. People then actively dropped him and left the mods he worked on. Suddenly, he talked about his grandma in DR and people called bullshit on that, but that's not confirmed nor deconfirmed. Anorak then made it about himself for some reason. Exaburner came back out of nowhere. We found some old tweets between Muto and Uni foreshadowing this shit. Calm made a whole thread about how angry he is and tells people to be better. When it's called out that we also talked about how he's not a swell dude, it turned out that other people also knew, but never spoke up due to cowardice, I guess? Then people say that the grandma thing is clearly not genuine, and one psychopath says that they can't wait until his grandma is deceased? What the fuck? Kenny gets pissy that someone mentions Revi in relation to this. Then, eventually, Rightburst drops an apology saying he apparently didn't read either Uni's tweet or the quote retweet he responded to.
Dude, from what I'm hearing, Kenny's a
properly and respectfully criticized, which I'm happy over. Then Muto, cocksucker that he is, mocks the idea of Rightburst lying to save his ass. Like, look, I don't want to be negative to him anymore, but Rightburst is well known for not being 100% honest all the time. Then Uni shares that she and Rightburst talked and cleared things up, which, hey, that's great. Good on you, Rightburst. I don't know if Rightburst actually did fail to read the tweet properly. It's, however, still genuinely good that this was cleared up. However, this means this was either malice or a massive fucking mistake on Rightburst's side. I'll be so nice to assume the latter, but it's still a fuck up he needs to learn from. Then, however, one day, out of nowhere, Rightburst dropped a scheduled tweet announcing his own suicide. He talked about how the community completely ruined his life and how he's actually going through with it this time as people don't care anyway. Despite what he said, he's still alive. Before he spoke up, people found out that it was apparently caused by loneliness due to a friend moving away. Now I'm gonna say that this was probably not attention grabby shit, but instead just a final problem that broke him, considering he has actually been heavily harassed and abused. This eventually led to an admittedly comical trilogy of tweets. So then Nayu ranted about this,
Matter of
made
fact,
a valid point on how he has been mistreated, but I'll still get to you, you piece of shit. And Muto also ranted about this, making an equally valid point about Rightburst being mistreated. But then that shithead blamed me and Lenny, which is a fucking terrible accusation that genuinely offends me.
And I've never said this unironically, but I think this will be the first time I actually say it unironically and mean it. Kill yourself.
Oh, damn.
Despite how shit I am at conveying that in my tone of voice, I'm serious in this. I know what it's like to be harassed as a minor. I know what abuse feels like. Do not ever imply I would bring someone close to suicide. Fuck you, Muto. genuinely fuck you. Then, when someone rightfully questions that, he doubles down, saying shit like, you have no fucking clue the amount of shit that goes on behind the scenes with them and Rightburst. When they are in his DMs every fucking week trying to get something out of him, then that's fucked up. He even purposefully misinterprets my call-out post towards him as a promise to harass Rightburst off the internet. Yes, this has to be on purpose, as I don't have a precedent of harassment and only promise to make sure he can't ever return, which would, as previously, be through exposed videos. And yes, I have to admit, I'm definitely very horrible to him in the ends. He gets such terrible harassment from me, like me saying that I'm happy he's still alive. Like, check the dates. This was before Muto's filthy thread, so don't even bother making shit up like I'm doing this to save face. This was me being genuine. So, Muto, you either knowingly lied or made shit up about something you knew nothing about. Pick your fucking poison. Eventually, and I'm only saying this for the sake of fairness, he did try to reach out to me, but I declined as the tweets were still online, making me doubt his intentions. Back to topic though. I wish Rightburst all the best. Please get better soon. This next one will be the final subject about him, I promise. Now, back when everyone thought Twitter was dying, Rightburst made a joke about Remy being actually innocent. Muto and Nayu then joined in on the joke, but considering how shortly it was after the almost suicide he committed, he was rightfully called out on it. He then apologized, which is kind of weird, what do you mean by this time? But one certain cunt didn't feel like it. After people called it out, Nayu got insanely defensive about it. She goes on and on explaining why it's fine, ignoring the issue that everyone now knows that Revy was slandered and that Rightburst played a part in it, making this joke pretty fucking disgusting. Suddenly, she talks about people hating on Rightburst for no reason? What? But seriously, she turns this shit joke into a Rightburst defense show for some weird ass reason. And I have a good guess as to why, but we'll talk about that in a second. I swear to God, I remember her admitting that she had the idea for the joke, but I lost that tweet sadly enough. Now ain't all that wacky. Anywho, after this joke and the backlash, Rightburst went on a hiatus as far as I know. Good for him, he needed that break. Now let's talk about the people supporting him, using one special example as a case study. Okay, as it's becoming a fucking pattern at this point, let's start with some context. Lenny found out that this following person leaked private info between us. I then tried to confront them as I considered them a friend until then. Turns out they pretended to be a Revy defender but were actually on Rightburst's side. However, to make sure they don't get harassed, I will be keeping them anonymous. Now let's get to it. They quickly say that they blocked Lenny because he got really fucking annoying, which would make sense on its own, but you'll see why that's likely bullshit later. They said that they had lots of evidence proving nominal innocence, 3.9 fucking gigabytes, the hell, and then deleted it all. First of all, deleting that shit makes no sense in any context. Why would anyone delete unreleased evidence? Second, 3.9 gigabytes. My 1.1 thousand screenshots, 2 videos, and 10 plus docs for this video alone are barely 260 megabytes. Who the fuck are you trying to fool? Unless you seriously mean you somehow have 24,000 screenshots. When I asked why they deleted all their messages with Lenny, they said that they thought he'd use it against them? What the fuck did you say for him to be able to use it against you? They also then defend Rightburst's memory issues, but fuck up in that, because forgetting something in 40 minutes is actually a great fucking track record. Seriously, is his brain a fucking hard drive? I struggle with remembering the topic of the conversation after just seconds. Also, him organizing the mod servers doesn't sound like what the X-Rerun members said. Then we discussed some DWR doc. They saw a small tidbit, yet were apparently fully convinced it's bulletproof. And it was going to be turned into a video, which is apparently going to be 3 hours long? Now, I do not know how long this video you're watching right now will be in total, but I am certain that by now, Lenny, Toastify, and I definitely have 3 hours long beat. I then made the point that they could have easily given that info to at least Toastify in private, something I still stand behind as he's still working on that fucking video, at the time of recording at least. But they just say, just wait for the counterclaims. Like, bitch, I made the counterclaims, Lenny made the counterclaims, Toastify made the counterstreams, FalseCount and Co made the original claims. Also, they just had so much fucking time for this already. Half a fucking year has passed since Lenny's original video. And what we have now, a secret response hidden from the public for next to no proper reason. Now, they say that they wanted to get the Rightburst to make a public statement ASAP, which, as you might know, never happened. Then I make like some throwaway comment towards Rightburst's hate boner for JoJo, which that supporter doubles down on, calling JoJo a dick, something I, personally, from my own experience with JoJo, consider out of character for them. They even say something about JoJo first being friends with Rightburst and then dropping them once they got popular. That whole part of the convo made me concerned. Keep that in mind for later. But despite all that, I still considered him a friend to some part. Not anymore, but whatever. So I warned them from trusting Rightburst. Keep in mind, I still thought he was the main man behind the Revy situation back then. Now, apparently, what Rightburst showed them lined up with their own evidence, which they deleted so we can't check. Put deleted in quotes, I still don't think it's real. But since they told me about a campaign they planned against Rightburst, I kept drilling him with questions. They said that they had evidence against him, but that was apparently just someone pretending to be him. I then asked for that evidence. They say again that it's all gone, all 3.9 gigabytes.
You know what?
We then keep talking about the evidence. They say that Nominal said, make it public or no one should have it, so they deleted it. First of all, Nominal never said that. That's just a lie. But even then, they said they pissed him off. Which, why would they listen during an argument when not all the evidence has to do with him? Now, once I question their story, they get insanely defensive, like borderline mental breakdown. They get pissed, call me just as annoying as Lenny, and then block me. Now, I don't need to tell you that honest people don't fucking act like this. The story made so little sense that just a couple questions broke it into pieces. Now, let's quickly talk about the JoJo portion because I am in contact with them. I tell JoJo what I've been told, they explain it in detail with screen caps. Turns out they were never close at all to Rightburst, only acquaintances. Eventually, JoJo distanced themselves from the team because they didn't want to get involved in the Revy shit. They sent a screen cap of a convo from literally the last day of 2021, showing they barely talked before and were on good terms. In fact, they apparently barely knew each other at that point. Later on, in April, they had another pretty interesting convo. It was generally about how Rightburst should handle the mod. That was apparently the only other time they were serious about stuff with Rightburst. Wait a second. Upton? The exit team knew that Upton was a sexual harasser, talked about it, and still fucking kept him? And Rightburst publicly supported him, despite also knowing? Okay, no, I'm not fully serious about this. Considering how shit that 133 page doc is, Rightburst had every reason to doubt Upton is a piece of shit, but he definitely is. I still think this was a massive fuck up on Rightburst's part, but I'm willing to assume it wasn't intentional. Now, onto the point of this chapter. The convo I had with that person reveals that even Exit Dev fans can be scummy. Of fucking course, not all of them, this is most likely a minority, but it still happens. So, to wrap things up, no, you didn't actually think I forgot that DWR thing. Let's talk about it, because the Revy situation is, in fact, still not fucking over. DWR, short for Down with Revy, is a doc that Rightburst, Foscow, and some others worked on to quote-unquote prove that Revy is guilty. Like that Rightburst supporter from the last chapter said before, it was meant to become a video, one Krybit would edit. This is where this comment, you might have seen somewhere else before, comes in. And I just want to say quickly, as a note, once more, do not harass Krybit or anyone else. I swear to God. Now, when Lenny asked Rightburst for the stock, its existence was confirmed, but Lenny was immediately blocked. Funnily enough, Rightburst later deleted all messages, which isn't even remotely suspicious. Now, realistically, this stock should no longer be in production. Rightburst can't be involved due to his mental state, and many others just can't be involved because of, the exit burner callout forcing them to go into hiding. So let's talk about why it is likely still going. The reason is the new guy who runs it. Joda Boy, the creator of Lord X and PC Port, as well as the current co-owner of Sonic.exe in general. But now, why would Joe do that? That's simple, he has a personal grudge against Revy. He says that Faker impacted him in such an uncomfortable way, which, let's be real, just means Revy did something, because not even he can separate the art from the artist. Plus, remember, he was part of the original callout. False Cow even quote retweeted him in it. And yes, that may not have to mean much, but Joe used the word "we" multiple times, making it clear that he was involved. Also, small callback to my very first video on this drama back in August. Remember how he basically admitted that they rushed the callout so that Revy wouldn't have time to defend herself? I do. Now, of fucking course, that's just speculation. There's no way to easily prove that he's even involved in this, right? Here's an email Joe sent to Toastify about DWR asking him to slow down on his video production. Funny thing to note, he makes it very clear he wants Toastify to take his sweet ass time with this video. He also tells Toastify to not share anything with Revy if he's in contact with her, which is disgustingly dishonest. Are you still trying to not let her defend herself? Now, since the doc is still not out, let's just be honest and say that this was meant to buy time and hopefully make everyone forget about the situation. Fuck you, Joe. Genuinely. Wait, hold on. This is the neutral party that False Cow mentioned in his doc? Oh, come on. But seriously, Joe is such a massive shithead for this alone. Then there's also the fact that he's the owner of Cult of X, the server Exoburner exposed, meaning that he just allowed Just a Frog back in like that despite likely knowing she's a pedo. But you wanna know what's funny? You wanna know what's fucking funny? He's a dickhead in other ways too! Okay, as a quick warning, this is the part that made me add child exploitation to the trigger warnings. Whether or not it actually counts as such is up to you. Either way, I consider it hella scummy. One random day on Twitter, a teen called Nirivo talked about her own experiences with Revy, calling her an ass. Her experience is about how when she was 9, too young for Discord, Revy made fun of her being so young, so she abused her mod powers and Joe got pissed. Then she says that she worked on PC port at the time. Likely the original.
Wait, what?
For Discord, Revy made fun of her being so young, so she abused her mod powers and Joe got pissed. Then she says that she worked on PC port at the time. Likely the original, not the remake. Keep in mind, she just said she was fucking 9 at the time.
No.
And no, her being on the internet since they were 5 ain't no fucking excuse. No 9-year-old should work on PC port. Now, that could just be a lie for attention, so let's investigate. Weirdly enough, there isn't any public credits list for PC port, which is kind of fucked on its own, but whatever. Let's investigate this ourselves then. By the way, I had a couple people help me investigate this. Thanks guys, I'm not gonna name you
Research
so
this
that
shit
you don't
ain't
get
easy.
harassed, but
I'll
I
tell
couldn't have done
y'all.
it without you. So, first of all, here's proof that she was 13 around July of this year, confirming her age. Next, we're gonna
Oh,
have to
wow.
check who exactly
Wait,
Nirivo
huh?
is. July of this year, confirming her age. Next, we're gonna have to check who exactly Nirivo is. Now, the name isn't spread that far, but on the Game Banana page for some FNF Creepypasta collection mod, I found Steak/Nirivo as the main musician with a linked Twitter account called @Nirivo, meaning this is likely the same person and that she's also called Steak. That name is a lot more prevalent, so it's time to get cracking. Now, when looking for it, we found this list of people with an @lolman69204 as Steak. The age stated on that account, 13, matches up, so this is likely Nirivo. There's probably even more Twitter accounts we can find, like this band @NativeONew, or this not band @Lolaleluja321 with the nickname Steak, which seems involved with PC port in some way, but this could be a coincidence. Also, to prove this is the same Steak, on PC Port's itch.io page, I found a Steak man speaking of the PC Port Discord. When you investigate that account, you see the @Lolaleluja321 Twitter account linked. So let's go into that server and keep investigating. On that server, there is someone called Nirivo who is also 13 and uses the same profile pic as @lolman69204, once again showing a connection. Also, note the consistency of Nirivo and Steak always being a musician. What we also find is literally a message from August 2021 confirming Steak was on the team, meaning they worked on it until they were 12 or 13. Meaning they worked on PC port at least 3 to 4 years, and weren't even 14 yet, by the way. Although we really didn't even need to look on the server. Joe literally acknowledged and credited @Lolaleluja321, one of Nirivo's accounts, for music, keeping the same consistency. So, finally, this is it, right? There's still another doc in production that Falscow set into motion and Joe is now continuing. But honestly, unless it explicitly confirms the Kubicork and Dreamy Carrots grooming allegations, don't fucking bother, because those were still lies and slander otherwise. And keeping Falscow's 133 page doc on Jasper in mind, it'll likely just be a cheap attempt at reiterating on the previous points. So is that really all? Wait, no? Okay, once again, for context. One day, a couple people on both sides, including Rightburst and that supporter I showed you before, decided to make a truce. For it, all sides would cease talking about the Revy situation, essentially resolving it. This was both insanely stupid and insanely gullible, but it seemed to almost work. But since I was unhappy with being barely involved in his creation yet also having to keep my part in it, I got in contact with Rightburst through Nayu, and this subchapter is about what happened. So I got into a group chat with Rightburst and Nayu. I showed before how this was the real Rightburst, and I don't even need to confirm Nayu myself. She's the one who leaked DMs first, so that basically proves this is real. I ask what the truce is about. Rightburst says he basically just wants to move on. He left the DWR project, so he doesn't know what has happened to it. He also confirms that False Cow played a huge role in it. Then we had like a small tangent about that supporter, we'll skip right through that. After that, Rightburst explains that the truce is just what I thought it would be, so I bring up the damage, quote-unquote, his slander campaign on Revy did. Then he tells me that Revy apparently made him suicidal. Jesus fucking Christ. However, I still stand by my two wrongs still don't make a right comment. That's just, a fact. There's another small tangent on how Lullaby, yeah, remember that from Madman's chapter, might have gone differently if Revy wasn't cancelled. She was the director after all. Now, after that second tangent, I bring up my three conditions to accept this truce. Director after all. Now, this chapter might have gone differently if Revy wasn't cancelled. She was the director. I remember that. That's just, a fact. There's another small tangent on how Lullaby, yeah, remember that from Madman's chapter, might have gone differently if Revy wasn't cancelled. She was the director after all. Now, after that second tangent, I bring up my three conditions to accept this truce. 1. A public apology for the slander. 2. The DWR dog. 3. False Cow taking his final dog down. He responds with the following things. 1. What do you mean slander? 2. DWR isn't his doing. Yeah, it's False Cow's, that's true. And 3. False Cow's actions aren't his responsibility. That's fair, I just hoped Rightburst could convince him to. We then talk a little about why I still kept going with the drama even though Revy wanted to move on. I bring up Calm's statement and get a pretty sizable response. He tells the whole story about the group chat with False Cow, Kubicork, Dreamy Carrots, and Jasper, something I later confirmed with Jasper himself. His own personal story is also told with Revy abusing him, which, if true, is really fucked of her. And, surprisingly enough, he's actually mature on wanting to drop it for everyone's sake. Which, hey, genuinely good on you, dude. And I'm not being ironic, that is definitely a respectable move. I quickly empathize with him, but ruining her life was still unnecessary despite what she may have done. He seems to genuinely understand that, which makes me happy. I then tell him that he should have spoken out about what she actually did, but apparently he couldn't as the whole team was on his ass when he did, scolding him. He apparently genuinely tried to speak up, but she supposedly used group chats to get everyone up against him. Also, she went to his private friend service and slandered him to his friends. I expressed my doubts, but when we kept discussing everything, Nayu came in to break it apart, but we both wanted to properly talk through it. When I asked about a point of origin for his and Revy's beef, he didn't remember it. Still, I give him the option to publicize this story, and yeah, I guess sorry for doing so without your consent to it, but I think this was ultimately the right thing to do. This all then ends peacefully, and after I sleep a night over it and talk with Jasper, I'm for the truce and hatch a plan to get him out of the drama. Eventually, he agreed to it, he just wanted to wait until the situation's calmed down. He thanks me for coming to him, and I thank him for giving me his side. In the end, we both agreed to that plan. So why did nothing come from it? Out of nowhere, on November 4th, Nayu came in and told me to grow up and move on. Afterwards, she dropped more nuggets of wisdom like it would actually bring their drama back to light. Bro, it still is at light a whole year after it happened. What the fuck do you mean? She also randomly acts like I'm threatening to harass Rightburst and straight up pretends that my offer to get Rightburst out of the drama is blackmail. I say that people...
Okay. God damn. This video is 3 hours and 36 seconds long. No, 3 hours, 36 minutes, and 53 seconds long. I'm currently screenshotting this motherfucker. And tomorrow, I'll come back and finish it off. But until then, I'm signing off. I'm saying goodnight. God damn, am I fucking tired.